Welcome to MistGames Heroes of Lofoten. I'm joined by Server. How have you found the whole experience so far?
Yeah, it's amazing, like the nature and all of the activities we've done here, like the sauning, it's just amazing.
Well, we've got a game coming up very soon, and I think the best way to kick off the game is to probably jump right off. So let's go and do that.
Okay, let's go.
3, 2, 1, go! Fuck!
Do you know what? I think letting Dwayne drop the F-bomb is the perfect way to open up today's show here in the Heroes of Lofoten. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the eternally in stitches at the moment, and I will be joined by Josh Dwayne Nathan in a short few moments' time as we welcome you to day 2 of our adventures here in Lofoten. And of course, the Heroes of Tomorrow currently playing out all of their matches. We've got a hell of a one coming up for you today, so hopefully if Josh is ready to join us, there he is. Look at him. Look, he's still dressed in the drying robe to make sure that he is prepared from his little dip in the sea a little bit earlier on. How cold was it, Dwayne?
Oh, mate, I don't even think words can describe how cold that actually was. But I was relaxed when I went back into the sauna and got myself into the heat.
I'm very glad I didn't do that based on your reaction to it. I can't tell you how funny that was. It was absolutely amazing. But look, mate, I mean, as cold as it might be in the sea, right now we are looking at a very hot competition as we move on to day 2 of action today, mate.
Yeah, we are indeed. And I think even yesterday kind of gave us an idea that not everything's clear-cut. Not everything's by the book of what we can expect. And that almost puts a more questionable ask on who's actually coming out on top? Who's actually coming here to take the home thing home? Because I think when we now look at even Masonic and Mouz NXT in this matchup today, Jay, there's a lot of question marks in that game.
Well, look, yesterday we did see our opening game, and of course that was Young Ninjas and 0-0 Prospects. The Prospects, of course, absolutely battered the Ninjas side, and of course they're moving on to take on NXT Academy later on. But again, our focus mostly turns towards the other side of that bracket, and I do believe we have a little bit of a more detailed look at how this bracket looks at the moment, Dwayne, so we can see exactly just how things have played out over the course of the time. But again, Masonic Mouz NXT is the matchup that we have in today's proceedings, mate. And look, when I take a look at the quarterfinals especially, I did look at that one, seeing as that should have been on paper the much more far-gone affair in my eyes.
See, it's one of those games for me where you might be right. There are a little bit more of those positives to add to the Mouz NXT side, but in more reflection and over the last handful of days, I've actually been swayed slightly more in this kind of series, and I actually think that we've got quite a competitive one on our hands.
Indeed we do, and I'm excited to see how this will play out as a result of that. Look, I know that yesterday was supposed to be a very competitive affair. It obviously didn't end up being that way, so if nothing else, I kind of hope that this one ends up being a bit more of a confident sort of piece of their own right. But speaking of competition, Dwayne, I think the best way to analyze competition is to bring that competition into the fold. And as a matter of fact, we are very honored to be joined by an expert of Counter-Strike itself. The coach of NXT Academy, Whitey, is now set to join us here on the desk as he looks to talk us through a little bit about what's going on. We'll just let him get settled in as is appropriate. And obviously, we love to have players and coaches on because they tend to have the ultimate knowledge that even we might not do, Dwayne.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I think, Whitey, just to jump straight into it, we've got a team that you played yesterday. So I'm surely that's going to be fresh in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we played Masonic yesterday in an external tournament. Quite surprised by these guys. Like, we haven't played them before. And, from what we learned in the game that we played, like, super interesting team. They have a very aggressive style. And it's gave me a lot more confidence for them this tournament. I'm really intrigued to see how they're going to match up versus Mouz NXT.
And I'd probably even counter that, right, and say, because they've beaten a team that's been invited into the next stage of the event, that's probably more confidence for Masonic going into today, very similar to what Prospects had in that series yesterday, where they've just come off the back of winning an event coming in.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Look, at the end of the day, like, the positions are sort of very, very different between these two sides, because you can certainly say that. There's also an argument in my eyes to say that Masonic, not quite the complete project. They've been in and out of a bunch of different players over time, and there's always that concern that, yes, they were able to do particularly well in previous matches coming into this event, but overall, the last few months have been a little bit more hit and miss from that side.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at the history of both teams, really, like it's different every time, right? And we look at Mouz NXT. I knew there was in a trial point for a while with a certain player. We even played them a few times during that phase. You look at the Masonic, like for what they've got now, it seems like they've really got that sort of setup now, that core ready to play. Really.
And I might even jump onto that. Obviously, you've come with an entire lineup that, when it first formed, didn't have a lot of LAN experience, and it was a very fresh thing to the team. I think Mouz NXT are in that complete conversation. So, what as a coach, like what is your insight like to a team that's going to LAN for the first time? Because Mouz NXT haven't been to LAN since November of 2021 with a completely different lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we briefly mentioned it when we first arrived. Like, I'm surprised that they haven't attended any other LANs. I don't know the reason, but for us especially, like when we went to our first LAN, it was one of the biggest experiences we could have gained. We look at like some of the things that the players dealt with, even such as the likes of in-ears. You know, like people aren't used to using them in a high pressure situation. It might be different, of course, the roster you have with the experience individually that have outside of that team. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good experience for them as well, because as you said, their last one was last year. It's different for me. I thought they would have played one by now, but we shall see.
I might add to that, Jay, and say, does experience get you wins, right? I mean, you're in a single Elim bracket here.
Well, I think that's the key thing, right? Like, sometimes it just comes down to on-the-day performance, and I'm not just going to say throw all analysis out the window just because of that, because obviously there's a lot more to the story than that. But if they are hitting all their shots, if they've got their playbook in order, if their protocols are down right, then that should, in theory, provide them the angle that they need to sort of be a capable team, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like experience and you look at the feistiness of not playing a LAN before, will nerves actually benefit them? Because sometimes when you overthink with your experience, it can actually, disregard some young talent coming in with nerves and using that as confidence. Like, it's going to be a good mix-up between the two. If you look at all of the teams here, there's a mixture of experience and fresh talent in regards to no experience to LAN. But I think if you look at both of the teams, I think they kind of match with their experiences in both regards. I mean, if you look at Mouz NXT, they have a lot more experience online, I'd guess, to Masonic. But overall, like at LAN, they kind of balance between the two.
Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into this Mouz NXT side, I think, just to sort of like give a bit more of details into what this team are. Because look, when you say Mouz NXT, you often think of the team that obviously dominated the Academy League, right? And that's sort of like the image that a lot of people sort of get in their minds. This is not quite that team. All those guys got caught up to the main sort of squad, so this new generation are coming through the ranks right now, Blake. So I just kind of want you to walk me through these guys and give us a briefing as to what they're capable of and where they'll fit into this system.
I think Nexius is a great entry fragger, always on the ball, trying to open up space, because you do have some star individuals on this team. You look at someone like Jim Pout on T side, he can make magic happen in rounds. Also on CT side, has a lot of anchor roles. So I think for Nexius, he's got one of the most amount of LAN performances out of the majority of guys on this team. So he might be slightly more comfortable than some of the others. I mean, Slend, right? It could have been any one of those AWPers over the last 4 months or so. We had so many AWPers trialing for the Mouz NXT side, but he's been here a while. And Whitey, what did you feel like he was involvement in that game yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, across the board, like when we were playing, it was hard to pinpoint, from a few maps, who's the standout player, because I don't think there was any massive performance from them. But you can tell when there's an opener or when there's, a late round situation when he picks up a kill, you can tell the kid's got talent. And it's exciting to see further. Like this game here, I'm excited to see what goes on. And for me, like even when you're representing one team, it's so intriguing to see like how he's going to do in this matchup.
Yeah. Even Christen, right? IGL, 16 years old. That's proper young. This is his LAN debut. He's not played on LAN before.
Yeah, and just the idea that you've got a 16-year-old who's been captaining the whole ship, like that can be a terrifying prospect for anyone who's that young and playing in Counter-Strike. I mean, like, is there a massive amount of pressure in that sort of sense, White, if you have like a very young IGL?
Oh, 100%. And massive respect to the guy, because anyone that can take on that role, especially at a young age, has definitely got some confidence there. I mean, it's such a big role to take on at any age, really. But to come to his LAN and seeing how he's going to perform and captain the team, massive respect to him, but it's going to be a hard test for him, that's for sure.
Well, this is another player that can also be watched out for. QQ, Danish rifler. He's been around a number of different Danish squads before joining this Mouz side, Dweg. And look, he's it's kind of wild again to sort of see Danish talent outside of that Danish scene when they've been there for so long, right?
Yeah, he actually played in the Benelux scene for a little bit. Actually played with Nexius on Project Evisio. So we know what he's been like in that scene. He's also got the most amount of LAN maps out of anyone on Mouz NXT. NXT, but I think there's always one that we're going to focus on the most, and that has to be Jimpat, right? 16 years old, one of the best anchors we have in the game right now in Tier 2. Online is absolutely ridiculous for such a long portion of time.
Yeah, back in the fall online event, we actually had him rated as our MVP of Heroes of Tomorrow. Is that an appropriate accolade for someone like Jimpat?
100%. I mean, I've learned a lot more about the guy now with my Finnish boys. Obviously, I knew a lot about him in regards to CS, but I've started to learn more about him personally. Super humble kid, super nice guy, and his performances does the talking. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does here.
I think one of the key concerning issues about this status, though, is the fact that the LAN maps being played is extremely low. So it's one of those cases where he's amazing. He's been absolutely fantastic in the last year or so being online, but when it comes to those online offline competitions, rather, the only thing he has is an assembly back 3 years ago, and even that was a last place finish. So it's not exactly like he's got that position to really be confident in this kind of an environment, guys.
It's going to make it very different. And I think for Jimpat, the question is, can he bring it? I mean, look at Nilo yesterday, right? We were hyping him up. We knew that he was a very good player, very similar roles to Jimpat. And unfortunately, we didn't really get to see much from him or Young Ninjas across the board. So Jimpat's going to be a key piece. And I think everyone's hoping that he puts on a good performance today.
Well, obviously, they are playing a different team. And obviously, Masonic is the other side of that board. And these boys, look, like I mentioned before, they're in a little bit of roster turmoil. They haven't officially got like a fifth player at the moment. They've been cycling players in and out, Dwayne. So let's walk through these guys. Let's start with Syra.
I think this is a kid that even I don't know a massive amount about. He has got very limited pro experience. He's got less than 30 maps played on HLTV. He's had 2 maps on LAN, but he's young. And I mean, look at Black, man. Look what he's been able to do in the past with his pickups. Think about Bruiser. Think about Alltex. Think about Buzz, Notan. The list goes on and on. That he's picked up young talents and he's turned them into superstars.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, I totally agree. I don't know a lot about the kid itself. You talk about his limited maps on HLTV, but even seeing him yesterday and seeing their past games, you mentioned about their roster as well, the inability to have like that full 5. It's going to be exciting to see how he does here again. I think all of these comments really about most of these players, that's why it's so exciting, this matchup, because there's so much they have to prove.
Well, from an unknown element to a very known element, Jency is the longest standing player on this team, been with the Sonic since 2021. Obviously a significant element in that sort of sense, just being a cornerstone for the team to build around in that way.
Yeah, he's actually IGL'd in certain points of this team. He's a very good AWPer. He's got a great amount of LAN experience. And I think if we just look at his LAN experience, I think you got to look at the trio. The trio of Anlay, Torsen, and Jency together. Those 3 have won LANs. They've been to LANs. They've been quite frequently. Frostlev as well. Man, he's just been coaching as an assistant coach on Copenhagen Flames for a year. Why did you reckon you could ever go back and play
mate, the return is near, trust me. But
Other than Dika, boys.
Yeah, other than Dika. The return is near one day, maybe CS2. But you're right, like players that have been in here for a lot of time, they know the foundation. They know how the team works. They know how they want to set up. So to bring players in, it's very easy to build from that, you know.
I'm sure we're seeing another member of the core that you mentioned earlier, Dwayne. Anlay, of course, part of that Jency, Anlay, Torsen core that you mentioned. Those guys, the last LAN that they went to was the Fire League Global Finals at the tail end of last year. So even as recent as the last 6 or 7 months or so, they've had that little period of sort of international competition. And that's one of the key things, right? Because we were mentioning it yesterday when it came to prospects and Young Ninjas. They've got a lot of national LAN experience, but very few players and very few cores in this tournament. They have that international basis to play from. I want to ask you if there's any sort of like if there's any sort of like extras that come when it comes to going to international lands.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at a lot of academy teams, they usually start out playing national sort of tournaments, right, in their own country. So when your team finally does get that international experience, it's a totally different ball game. For us, like it's the first time we travelled together, and I think probably for these, as a team, it's probably the first international event. So it's definitely a lot of difference compared to playing at home, so to speak, and that's why it makes it so interesting.
Well, I just want to touch on quickly with Anlay and Torsen. They've changed their roles slightly this year. I mean, Black as well has probably been involved with that entire thing because Anlay's turned into a bit more of a star rifler and Torsen's gone more into anchor roles.
Well, you mentioned some of the players that have come through Masonic under Black's coaching, under his CEOship with this sort of organisation. And Dwayne, you had a chance to sit down with him when he came to the complex earlier on this week. And so he had a chat about exactly what's been going on in that sort of sense. He's got a little bit of showboating going on, but on a more serious tone, let's see what he had to say.
Turbulent, because when we moved into 2023, I believe I made, at that time, a good roster solution, bringing on a former Trick player called Kia and former Astralis player called Jaco. but it was a very bad mix and match with the team, socially and game-wise. You know, they had different perspectives. We are playing somewhat of a wild style of Counter-Strike and very aggressive, very entry-heavy Counter-Strike, but they come from different school, so to speak. So we had a bad match. And decided to move on, you know, bringing on a more experienced player in Frøslev as an in-game leader and you know, gambling on a young potential star.
So, a lot of great moves that they've made over the course of time. Again, you can take a look at some of those names and say, wow, those are very respectable. But again, for Masonic, it throws a lot of instability on the table. And that's one of my key takeaways for this team overall, is the fact that how can you rate a squad where you don't really know what the full five is going to be, Dwayne?
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks. I mean, Whitey, I don't know if you remember when Masonic didn't even have an IGL. They're one of those teams that in previous iterations had 2 or 3 players calling on different maps. Now you've actually got a set IGL. I think Frøslev brings a lot to the team with experience. And you've got to think about his age as well. Like mid-20s, he's been to a lot more international lands than the majority of the guys have. And you mentioned that Fire League result. That still burns in the minds of Masonic. I've spoken to the players, and they still remember it to this day. They don't want to go out in the first round. They don't want to go out straight away. They're looking here to try and get a win.
Yeah, that was also a single elimination bracket, but obviously like much higher level of opposition.
Yep.
So I'm wondering whether or not they'll be able to maintain their composure here, Whitey.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big test for them. But like when he mentioned, obviously in the interview that you had, they went with this aggressive style. We noticed it yesterday in the game as well. Not of course throughout the whole best of 3. They have good composure in some rounds and some slow rounds. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can put that confidence into those fast rounds in this tournament here.
Well, gentlemen, I'm told we have the veto ready. So let's take a look and see exactly what maps we'll be playing here in this best of 3.
Okay, let's do the map veto. And we use the same seeding as in the closed bracket. So Masonic is the highest seeded there. So you decide are you team A or B?
We are team A.
You're team A. Oops. So you start ban?
Yeah.
Yep. What's your first name?
Ancient.
Ancient.
Okay. We ban Inferno.
Inferno ban. Your map pick?
Overpass.
Overpass. Start side.
T-side.
T-side start.
We pick Vertigo.
Vertigo pick. Start side.
City.
CT. Your next ban.
Mirage.
Mirage. We have Anubis and Nuke.
Ban Anubis.
And Anubis, so Nuke as the third map. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God kamp.
God
Good veto.
Disappointment in the Anubis ban at the tail end there of that veto, Dwayne. Why did Masonic have such a reaction in that sort of capacity?
Both teams don't play Anubis, and I would have been shocked if it got floated right to the end. When I didn't see it as the 2 permas, I thought, geez, we're in for a wild curveball here. The Overpass pick is slightly different. We don't often see Overpass being picked. I think it's only been picked 4 times in the last 3 months from Masonic, so maybe trying to just change things up because of the team that they're playing?
Yeah, I mean, we actually played Overpass yesterday, and we had like a really good overtime game. It was super close, but I think they've gained a lot of confidence from that game, and that's why it's come out with the pick. Obviously, Vertigo as well, Mouz NXT was kind of expected.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm surprised by that pick, but it's going to be interesting. 3 maps that I kind of expected, and it was funny to see about the old Nubis situation as well.
I do look at that Vertigo pick, and I know that the win rates are pretty good for Masonic in that sort of sense, but is that something, a major thing to be worried about there for them, Dwight?
I don't think so. The factor is that these guys, as a core 5, haven't been playing Vertigo a massive amount. It was kind of with Kier and Jarko and Vesta into the lineup. So across the board, there's not many teams that beat Mouz NXT on Vertigo, so I think that's fairly safe as a map pick. The Overpass is one for Masonic where it's slightly something different. Maybe the likes of Mouz NXT weren't prepared for it. Maybe they didn't actually prep for that map and thought that they were definitely going to get an Inferno. I mean, even that being a perma ban, you look at some of the other options. We'll see what Vertigo brings and if there are any question marks.
Why are you looking at that veto? What would your prediction in this series be?
To be honest with you, I would still go 2-1 to Mouz NXT.
Okay, awesome. 2-1 to Mouz NXT from the expert himself, the man who's played against them in whatever capacity. Whitey, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you very much.
We do appreciate it. And now we did, of course, get our reactions from the players prior to the series, seeing how they feel about Mouz versus Masonic.
We've got Frostlev here just before the match starts. Only 15 maps played in the last, few weeks that the team's been together. What's that time been like? Because you've only managed, 2 wins out of 6 best-of-3s?
Yeah, it's been kind of difficult for us, actually. We've been playing a lot of OT games, so it's really tough mentally when you can't close out the games. So I think that's a little bit worrying, but I think eventually, if we just work hard, we're going to close out those games.
And I think a lot of teams at this competition might underestimate you, maybe look at you guys as being the weaker teams. Does that almost give you more fuel as an in-game leader to be like, we want to prove them wrong, we want to win against them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have high expectations for this team, and I feel like we have 5 very good individual players, and we function well socially together. So I feel like, first of all, we just have to be patient. But of course, we want to prove ourselves soon, and hopefully we can do this at this event.
And you've got a young rookie on the team, Sarah, the 16-year-old. What's he going to be like? We've seen very little of him when it comes to pro matches. So is he feeling comfortable over the last couple of days? Is he ready for the game?
I think so, actually. I think he's been really surprising. We knew he was a pretty good talent when we picked him up, but he actually done really well, even above our expectations. He's very communicative, a very crisp aim, and he also picks up things very fast, so he's quite easy to learn a lot of stuff. So I feel like he's just a great addition, and he will just become better over time.
Now, obviously, we know on the Mouz NXT side, Jimpat's been playing incredibly well for a long period of time. Slend as well is finding some really good form. Is that a worry, or have you got a game plan against them today?
I feel like we've been preparing pretty well for them. We try not to overdo stuff, because I think when you do anti-strat, you can easily become a little bit tunnel vision. And we still want to play our game, which is very reactionary and, individual plays-based. So I feel like if we get too tunnel vision, we can, it's kind of a bad thing, right? So we try to do it a bit minimal, but still focus on what their tendencies is, and try to exploit that.
Well, some wise words coming from the IGL of Masonic, looking to prove a massive amount in this series today.
Here are Nexus mates. Big game today, obviously. Single Elam bracket. A lot of pressure on you guys right now, and big expectations to live up with the Mouz side. Is the pressure on today against Masonic?
No, I think we have a good preparation. We know them well because we've played against them like a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're ready. I think we're feeling good. Awesome.
Well, look, you guys are certainly in a position right now where Mouz NXT have become one of the more established academy squads, and certainly in that sense, there's a bit of expectation to live up to. Do you ever feel like there's ever a situation in which the organisation name and brand sort of like puts pressure on you guys to perform?
No, I think I don't think about that, to be honest. I just play my game, just do what I'm supposed to do, and I don't think we feel the pressure of the team or anything like that.
So you guys have been in Lofoten for a few days now. What's the practice regimen and preparation been like for today?
Yesterday we took a chill day a little bit. We went on a boat ride, and after that we played some practice, talked about the maps, talked about some of our mistakes, and yeah, that's about it.
Who do you think is the biggest threat right now on the Masonic side for you?
I think we have to look out for everyone a little bit. They have a very aggressive play style, so we just have to make sure that we're ready from the get-go, and make sure that we just own them straight away to get their momentum out of them.
Awesome, cool. Any particular sort of things we should be looking out for in today's matchup?
I think just a lot of aggression, a lot of good plays, and a lot of fun. I don't know. That's it.
And who's the most deadly player that we should be looking out for you on your side?
Jimpat, of course. always. He's always there when you need him. So you'll see it today, I think, as well.
Awesome, cool. Scoreline prediction: 2-1, 2-0.
2-0.
2-0.
Yeah.
Confidence there from Mouz. Thank you very so much for joining me, man. Appreciate it. Certainly confidence to go for the 2-0, Dweg, and certainly that's what we had last time as well. Mouz 2-0 Masonic in an online competition, a 16-11 and a 16-2 on Inferno and Vertigo respectively. Is there potential in which we could see a similarly one-sided affair between these two teams again?
I don't think so. And the first thing I'm going to counteract is that was 41 days ago. You got to think for Masonic, they're going to be working really hard recently into this event, because this is a huge opportunity with a newer lineup to be able to get an opportunity on LAN. And one thing you got to remember, it wasn't even Core 5. Notam was still playing there for the Masonic side. So we didn't even get to see Syrah play in that game.
No, we didn't. And again, this our whole roster instability thing. What can you expect out of Masonic in that sort of sense? I mean, it could well be a fantastic team that could well win the whole tournament, or it could not be at all. So we really have that unpredictability in this sort of matchup that you have to look at and say, right, okay, where do we stand here between these two sides? And when we've got a little bit of an idea, again, I'm sort of with Whitey in that sense, right? Obviously, he's been looking at situations and he's been looking at this whole thing and saying that he thinks is going to be a match for the Mouz NXT side. I'm going to give Masonic at least a little bit of credit, because I think that the experience they've got in First Slaves Edition has been very invaluable to them. But I don't think I can see Masonic being able to win this series outright.
See, I think I can, to be honest. Like, I still think Mouz are the favourites. There's no denying that. They are going to be the favourites going into this series. I'd probably still predict a Mouz 2-1 to go their way, but I can see Masonic winning out off of the basis of the new style of play that they're offering. And you've also got to remember, the core has been very successful on LAN. In the last 12 months, Masonic have been to 4 LANs. One of them was that Fire League event where they went out in last place. Even that, they took pain to 16-14 on map 1 and an overtime in map 3. The other 3 times, they've all been first places. Yes, okay, it has been locally, but when these guys have been to LAN, they've been successful.
It's all about that LAN versus international experience, right? The local stuff versus the bigger leagues, the Fire Leagues. In certain cases in this tournament, you know, those significant S-tier events, not very often, of course, but sometimes regardless.
Yeah.
And for Mouz NXT, yeah, you are right. That is the key thing that takes away from them, is the fact that they've never had those true performances as a team, and in a lot of the cases, the individuals themselves. So I'm curious to see where they sort of go in that sort of sense. I think, however, that the talents on that side are certainly good enough to try and translate that, at least have a decent crack of being able to do well at this kind of event.
Well, I'm even going to talk about true performance, right? What about true performance in the bloody closed qualifier for Mouz NXT? They shouldn't have been here, Jay. If we're going to be completely real with ourselves, I don't think that they should have been here at this LAN at all. They were down 4-15 on map 3 against Atlantic, another Danish team. We didn't even talk about that. They're playing another Danish team now.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've had their struggles most certainly in the online environment especially, and that adds to the situations that we've seen in that sort of respect, right? And for Masonic, maybe they could well have a few tips in their back line to be able to bolster upon that and figure out a new way in terms of like fighting back. And again, you'd be concentrating on some of those elements. Syra, you mentioned obviously the newer guy in this sort of a roster. Do you think that he's going to be the guy that you look at as potentially a star player, or is that too soon to tell?
I think it's too soon. Definitely not today. I think he definitely could mold into that, but I think today you're going to be looking at consistency from that core. You're going to be looking at that core 3 rifle pack. I mean, for Syra, there's an opportunity for him to show his class. I think for Slend, again, we've seen some very good stuff from him this year on Mouz NXT. We haven't seen much from him on LAN. When he did play LAN, it was locally when he was still playing with Onyx and Horved back in the Hungarian scene. He's a bit more of a quiet kid. I've had a sort of a couple of interactions with Slend, so I wonder in this environment where there could be a bit of shouting, there could be a bit of emotion, what he's going to be like, because he is fairly quiet.
I mean, you talk about roster instability for the Masonic side. You've got to remember there was pretty unstable in terms of finding an AWP player for the last few months, obviously. There were a number of players that went in and out, obviously not to the same extreme as something like Masonic, but that's still a concerning sort of factor. Unfortunately for the Masonic side, I guess a lot of their results have really been reflected in the fact that they haven't really had a consistent 5, that they haven't really had a definitive team. So only 3 of the last 10 series have gone their way here.
There's a couple of shockers in there. You have to look at the one against XI, which is a Danish team led by Mertz, and the Make Your Destiny roster. You should never be taking losses to them if you're Masonic. So they know that the results haven't been great, and I think it shows by that. The wins against Yano and Enterprise puts yourself in winning 2 out of the past 6 best of 3s with this current 5-man lineup. But I think across the board, Masonic have had it rough, and what's one way to bounce back with some poor results? Get a victory, prove it on LAN.
And of course, to mention as well, those are just the HLTV matches. There was one sort of series of HLTV against Ennis Academy, which they were able to win. So if they do start getting the victories, if we look back at this situation in a few months' time and see that they've turned it around, this would be the start of that. For Mouz NXT, slightly better recent form, but again, a number of losses as of late, but they have been against respectable teams. Young Ninjas, obviously, within that academy scene. K23 still holding their own, not as significant as they previously used to be, but still a respectable tier 2 team in my eyes.
Yeah, I think for Mouz NXT, you look at the recent run of form, and it's average. It's okay. Is it better than Masonic? Absolutely. Is it fantastic and catches your eyes like a 0-0 prospects? No, it doesn't at all. So for Mouz NXT, they've still got a lot of proving ground to bring in this kind of a game. And I think for their sake, just knowing that they haven't had that many playoff positions recently, this is a great opportunity for them to prove themselves. Obviously, they came 3rd in the European Pro League Season 6. They've had a couple of out of 16 seen exits here and there in some online competitions, but I want to see the Mouz NXT that we've seen in previous MistGame events. Go deep, right? Be able to get victories under their belt and push it right to the end, because we haven't seen that in a little while from them.
Well, remember, in Heroes of Tomorrow 4, we looked at them and said they're one of our 2 top teams. It was between them and Fnatic Rising as who was going to take that tournament. Obviously, it ended up being against Academy, as we all know, so even that was a bit of a shock, and they actually put Mouz into 3rd place as a result of that. So again, it's not foolproof. As I mentioned during the interview, this is a team that was once, and of course during the pre-game as well, this is a team that was once considered the undisputed best Academy side. Right now, that's not necessarily the case. What do you think they need to do to try and get back to that position?
It's very tough. Maybe get some LAN experience. I mean, that really could be what it is here for Mouz NXT. They know that this is an incredibly important game to show up, to show what their online results have been like, because they've been grinding online over the last 3 months.
We'll see whether the grind has paid off. Masonic, Mouz NXT, our 2nd match in the Heroes of Lofoten as we kick things off on Overpass, our first map in this series. Masonic to the CT side start. Mouz have got an upgrade pistol over on Nexius. It's into the mid control on the early default.
And even though Overpass was picked by the likes of Masonic, the rate of amount of success in recent times has not been all that great. 4 wins and 8 losses across the last 3 months for the Masonic lads.
Prodding in towards the long control for the majority of the Mouz boys. Got Jency set into the bathrooms to try and receive him. Krisen's right around that corner. USP sees the shadow, takes the fight, wins that headshot, trying to look for the second man as well, spamming the bullets, connects that one by headshot, unawares of the 3rd player, so Slen can get the trade. That's a 2-for-1 that favours Masonic, making it 3 as Froslave chimes in from mid.
Jency's done well there to be able to get 2 picks out from the bathrooms, completely secluded, teammates not even in sight. Sierra's been able to get into a little bit of an off-angle position just underneath this party position, but does get spotted out by QQ from T-Con, and Anlay out here in the bathrooms is going to drop the bomb.
That leaves QQ in a very awkward position as a result. 1-on-3 situation. Takes that first fight against Unlay and does do decent work to tag him down. But needs to go a lot further than this. Of course, the bomb in the open, crossfired by all 3 CT, so isolating each fight. Difficult, impossible, in fact. Kill found, round found, pistol gained by Masonic.
Now, we know that Sierra plays a lot around the bathrooms on the city side of Overpass. He kind of more of an A-anchor kind of person. So I think we should watch out for what he's going to be like. Bathrooms, divider, rotating back to A, and see what he's up against for the Mouz NXT side. But right there, the NWP player of Jency was the star element of making that round successful.
Yeah, very solid stuff for him. M4's in for him as well, and Torsen will back up with the 2nd key rifle. The FAMAS and everybody else, and Mouz, of course, without any bomb plant, so no buy in this 2nd round.
Just knowing that Jimpat hasn't played a LAN event since February of 2020, I think a lot of Finnish fans, Jay, are going to have their eyes on this game to see what the young man is made of. And you mentioned that it was a last place finish. He'll want to try and change that around this time. And he has been incredible. Even in the closed qualifier, he was a standout entity. And one thing I'm not sure if you did see, Jay, but only a few hours ago, Mouz announced that they've recently picked up an analyst of Netric, who used to be an ex-pro in the Danish scene. So I almost wonder, does the analyst help out the Mouz NXT roster today in any capacity?
I guess we can talk with that. We can talk with Tobers about that later. We'll find out.
Maybe.
For now, analysis is not going to mean much in terms of the anti-eco round. These are rifles versus pistols, and of course, rifles do end up winning out as you would expect. Syra just there, backed up towards the park position, I should say, getting his kills in, making it a simple 2-0 start for the Masonic side. Mouz, however, they did go in for the harsher eco again. No bomb plant bonus off the back of that pistol loss, so they'll look back into the guns now. The rifles should be inbound.
For Mouz NXT, just try and offer up as much on this T side as possible. Only a 43.5% on the round win when it comes to this half in the last 3 months. So looking in that ballpark of 7 to 8 rounds on a rough estimate. A 2-0 looking to be 3-0 for the Masonic side. They'd love to be able to get off to a flyer start, just keep as many of that round streak in as possible.
He's got a smoke set in initially. HE damage on the Mouz side. Masonic are doing very well at getting these consistent openers. Not quite the opening kills, but start out does favour them. Slend and Krisen. Giving Slend as the man that makes his way forward in first and foremost, out from the mid control especially. Nexus will now take charge. Jency having a lot of backup out here in the bathrooms. That first engagement should come through for Sierra. Great kill, opening start. Second player might face him. He just well enough to the second man, and the HG for the triple should land pretty perfectly. Not quite. Christian gets out of there, but it's a 5-on-3 for Masonic.
Siri's done very well there. Shadow advantage, and they don't even know that there was a triple setup out there in the bathrooms. Torsen catches off QQ outside of Monster, and as of right now, Masonic are looking incredibly impactful on the opening rifle round.
Yeah, Mouz not that hot at the moment. All 5 alive for the CT forces. Unlay closes with another confident basis for the Masonic camp. Mouz NXT. Well, is it time to start being concerned?
Oh, come on, Jay. We've had 3 rounds.
I know it's very early, but look, mate.
We've had a pistol, an anti-eco. Nah, come on, bro.
I'm thinking about yesterday because we were so optimistic about that game being a barn burner. We have some predictions that go to 2-1 in this pivotal capacity. I'm just thinking, man.
No. We've seen a pistol round, a Glock round, and a rifle round.
Yeah.
We can't be entertaining this.
All right. I'll leave you to it then.
If we get to like 6-0, we can start entertaining it.
Okay.
Get a bit further. Let's have some more rifle rounds.
Well, we are only 3 rounds away from that position, and one of those is about to be a half-buy investment upgrade pistols, Tech 9's P250 deal. Gen C with 1. Slen does get 1 decent responsive. Jimpat is going down, though, and as everybody else here in Connector, almost QQ responds back the same, grabs that from us. 1 or 2 players left versus 3 of Masonic. Just try and work that bomb back out towards the A site.
And for Mouz NXT, getting a bomb plant's going to be pretty much impossible. So what you're hoping for here is some slight overextensions. See if you can get a CT player that's kind of hungry. Anlay's just jump spotting, but has to try and get the timing out to the long control. And yep, Slen's been seen.
Counter utility in with the CT side. Unlay going to try to protect his Slen. Just made his way ahead of that smoke, though, but Unlay still finds the fight. And the frag, QQ next up the task, and next up to fall. 4-0. 2 players worth of casualty damage done to Masonic, so the money should be able to recover from here. And Mouz again focusing on their next gun round.
Just knowing that Masonic are the only team that advanced via the closed qualifier that have made roster changes for the better, I think can only be answered in this single best of 3. Mouz NXT have got to try and see if they can offer up an opening man advantage, because that's been something that's lacked over the course of the last couple of rounds. Is trying to get themselves a 5v4.
Nice to send the smoke over from Unlay, being the nice guy for his teammates on the B site.
Seen that some creative stuff now.
Seen that clip where they try to throw the orb away over there.
I have seen that one. That is a great comedy clip.
Not on this occasion. Not yet, at least. Mouz, again, taking the early damage to the utility bases. CT so far forward initially on their contact default. In the end, Siri's going to get back.
And I'm loving this, right? They're taking so much map control. And even Torsen deals with a lurk out towards the short sandbag.
See the second man there as well. Flashes are being sent. They're telegraphing some sort of aggression.
Oh, look at Sira. He's already making an info play. He's going further in from playground.
He's got to try and find a fight out of that T composition, though. He might be inbound for it. Chris, meanwhile, leaning closer and closer. Nexus has absolutely no idea. Giving away a bit of information as well. It's perfect for Sira to get that kill. A 5-on-3 now. The CT up in connector, ready for Krisen as well. Jimpat all the same. Right around that corner, Unlay. Flash turned away from, great spray. First man down, second man falls the same as Sonic lights out right now.
And they're playing some good Counter-Strike, and it showed that they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're taking park control, they're getting up here towards Fountain. You even saw Torsen get a very good timing out there towards a B site, and Slen's been seen with the bomb towards T-Com. This is another flawless round on a rifle, and think about this from Masonic's point of view. You're saving AKs, money's being farmed up, they're getting a bit loud, we can hear them next door. And even Sira, he's got a smile on his face, and you can understand why.
You're 5-0 up, you haven't missed the beat. You've lost very few casualties over the last few rounds or so. 5 in total over 5 rounds. So that's just absolutely maddening numbers there for the Masonic side. And rightfully so, Mouz NXT will take a tactical timeout because it's not been an early game to shout about, honestly.
No, not at all. And for Mouz NXT, you look at their overpass, last 3 months, 6 wins and 6 losses. So not bad, average of the map pool. Now, you normally look at Jimpat and the likes of Slend, even Krisen. This is one of his better maps in the pool for the IGL. And Mouz NXT, I think they've got to fight fire with fire. I think one thing that we definitely saw yesterday was that as soon as 0-0 Prospects got off to an opening start, it was really quiet from Young Ninjas when it came to taking map control, when it came to trying to take up straight-up fights. It slowed down the game massively. I think Mouz NXT need to try and bring some further acceleration come the next rifle round.
Tamar setting for Frostlev. He's left one player go by it, but the flashbang blindness gives him a better opportunity to get a secondary kill. Doesn't quite land it, but he's done damage to the next 2 individuals. Torsten makes his way up into the short control, sees the first, gets him, second man also falls. And again, pistols v rifles. The rifles are coming out on top. No eco steals and any particularly tangible capacity here for them. Mouse, side, fire. Oh my word, okay. That's a sequence that will set you up pretty nicely, and generally speaking, he's been doing fantastic. He's second top of the board so far in the early game here. We're questioning what he's really made of right now. He just showed a piece of that.
I want to see more from Sierra over the course of this entire event, over the next few months, because I think this is a huge opportunity for him. Going over from that Presapia lineup, they were only just starting to get featured on HLTV before he made the move. And when Masonic comes calling, with this organization, with the amount of decent players they've had in previous iterations, that's a no-brainer to join them.
Trying to play entry as well. AK setting and above that smoke, going to get the boost up of the AWP as well. The rifle combination, Gensi finds that first. Slend decimated in an instant. Mouz walked right into that.
Adelaide's got a boost out towards the B site as well. This is getting quite creative here for the Masonic side, and they're about to make it a 5v3.
See the feet of Jim Pat sticking out below that smoke, making it look easy for a kill.
This is just good Counter-Strike being played.
Yeah.
A lot of reactionary things, a couple of creative boosts here and there. And now if you're Masonic, you just play man advantage. Play passive in the bomb sites. You don't need to make info plays from this point onwards.
Beauty of a game for the Danes.
And how many times have we said that over different iterations of Masonic?
Yeah.
I even think back to, I was chatting with Black the other day, and I said, I remember casting you guys on Nuke, and the top site hits, the slow rounds, the good site XCs. Masonic have always tactically been one of the stronger teams in Denmark. There's no denying that at all.
Just a shame that they constantly have their players nicked by bigger organizations, right? Like, we think about the players that have been through this team, and right now you see them in respectable Tier 2 and even Tier 1 competitions in some capacities.
Without a doubt.
This is a perfect example of the heroes of tomorrow in the Masonic side. And if they keep playing like this, they'll be heroes of today. Mouz and NXT will be the villains in that particular case. Torsten burnt down a 15 HP, trying to hide in the flames, but still take a fight against QQ. Nexus, QQ, and Krizen could combine together, get a couple of these picks back, but still not gain a man advantage. A TK was thrown in the mix. Krizen is all alone, 1-on-2. Bomb down in the midst of the smoke. We'll try to set up the retake.
Jensi's going to go over to the AK rather than holding onto that AWP. Krizen's got to try and fight these guys individually.
In at the left side of the site. Sierra backed up. Checking the water control. He has no idea how close they snuck by, but he's back to be turned. He finds the man, locks on the headshot at the right moment. Now, where is the last? Gensi detected up at heaven, but not able to win the fight for the T side. So close yet, so far from Mouz NXT. 7-0 to Masonic, Dwayne. And you said 6-0 is the time you start entertaining that conversation. I'm seeing significant similarities to the yesterday, so the difference is this team of Masonic, man alive, they look good.
Yeah, they're playing well. And just something to keep in mind, individual stats from Masonic's players on LAN in the last 12 months. Gensi's played 21 maps, positive 87 KD difference at a 1.18 rating. No matter which iteration we're looking at Masonic on LAN, he is always the go-to guy to create impact, to make sure he's getting opening picks. And we've seen exactly that, right? We saw that boost from Sierra to get Gensi to look up towards T-God, bang, opening man advantage. What does he do in the late round? Wins a clutch situation. He's always a guy you can rely on when it comes to LAN matches.
Mouz have got to change the pace. They've got to change the situation because, again, they are getting shut out of this matchup very quickly.
Yeah, they're just got to be frustrated because I don't think Masonic are doing anything too gimmicky. It's just that the opening picks are being in positions where they just can't trade. You're just not in a position and in a trading sort of space as such to be able to find a response.
Orbs are out for Gensi once again. Mouz get to bring one of those to the table on Slen's part. Maybe suffering for it, only 2 kills deep. Nexius has still got nothing to his name so far in this matchup. Jesus, that is absolutely disgusting.
It's just unfortunate for QQ, isn't it? You've done everything right. You've got a teammate flashing you in towards short pipe, and Anlay's completely blinded, but yep, still gets a kill, still falls off.
Krizen, no such luck, spamming through the wallbang. Kills not found, burst fire from Krizen. Hoping that he can find somebody outside of Monster, but with that retreat being found by Mouz, there may be an indication that there's not much B present, so third man to rotate into the A defense. They are set up for this lurk play.
Oh, they're reading the game very well, stacking up bomb sites nicely. even that off angle towards the long cubby corner, so difficult to clear.
M4 held. Waiting for contact, waiting for something to show itself out towards long. Oh, hunting for the kill instead, and actually Sura gets Nexius to fall. A 5-on-3 now for Masonic. Mouz and NXT trying to get back into this A site. Unlay backed up into the corner, finding Jimpat as they do not check the corner. It's a simple triple sequence denied at the very end by Sura, but not like it matters for Masonic. 8-0. They have yet to concede a round before winning the half.
Jimpat 3 years, Slen 2 years, QQ 1 year, and Nexius 1 year. Now, you might be wondering, what do these figures mean, Jay? That's how long it's been since these guys have played LAN. And think about the position you find yourself in now. You're 0-8 down, you've got lack of LAN experience, you're going up against a LAN quality team in Masonic. You must just be molding. You must just emotionally find yourself in a very awkward position. I mean, take Frostlev, right? We were talking about Masonic being able to work with some good players in the past. He played on Fragsters. That's where Stown and Refresh used to play once upon a time.
Yeah, he's had that experience with Tier 1 capable talents. Again, we've seen players come out of Masonic and go to that Tier 1 environment. What's to say he's not playing with a few now? Incredible stuff from Masonic so far. Mouz and NXT. I mean, I looked at this and I thought, if anything, Mouz and NXT would have been the team that would have been able to stop, but that LAN experience, as you mentioned, clearly affecting them. Even the star players of this roster yet to get past 1 or 2 kills. Flash is sent. At least Sira gives up a little something out towards the mid control. There's a trade back from Gensi, though. A rifle that the T's can recover here, and they're going to try and get it. Because at this stage, they may need it.
Gensi's normally pretty calm in these kind of situations. First shot comes through, out towards the right-hand side. Slim might be able to offer up the trade. Nah, not going to be.
Simple pickings. Any more? Heard the footstep, he's going to get out of there. Smoke down. There's the Jimpat. Still find the pressure against him. Back up in the AK, dropping the bombs now. QQ's fallen all on Jimpat. A guy we praised many times, but nothing to praise today for him. 9-0. It was pistols. They can get guns back in this round, but at this stage, they need a lot more than just a decent buy.
Yeah, did you know that the last event Tobiz, the coach of Mouz NXT, attended as a player was NPF 2021, a local Danish LAN where he stood in for Masonic. That was Tobiz, Black, Queenix, Bruiser, and Kragen. So a couple of names that we're familiar with. So think about what this must be for the coach of Mouz NXT going up against a team that you once played with.
And against your ex-teammate who's also in the coach role. Like, there's a lot of history of that sort of sense. For Tobiz, it must be feeling pretty dire with the way things have gone. Glory, glory, Black. Torsen, spray down ahead of the flashbang and smoke prison. Gonna get caught for it. Great kill found, but nothing more presenting itself. They are charging their way outside of the monster control as Jimpat tries to find an entry, but still no casualties taken on this Masonic side. The Molotovs continue coming in, and the T's are forced back.
And this is the worst case scenario. The last thing you want to do with a B-pop is cancel, but you kind of have to. There's so much counter utility. Even the flashes, that first point of contact that was coming through from Torsen, he wasn't really blinded. He was actually playing an off angle towards that left-hand side of the surf. And for Mouz NXT, you've just been read completely on that round. You have got such little to work with, not only the util standpoint, but even the HP numbers.
To think that they've gone off so rough off the back of that attempted execution and they haven't done a lick of damage to Masonic right now.
You know, Jempat's the highest rated player at this event in the last 3 months as well, online. Just looking at the players that we have in MistGames. He's 1-9.
Not encouraging for him or Mouz.
I mean, even Nexius, I was talking about him being a very superb entry fragger. That one kill that he got on the Hero AK rounds, all we've seen from him.
Unlay stands to defend alongside Sira. Engagement with a spray, QQ to fall. All remaining individuals tagged up here for Mouz and NXT. Now dead on Nexius' spar. Bomb drop, swing back, double spray, not quite contained, but not like it will matter. These two are going down so easily. Unlay can line them up later. Wow. Masonic on a roll, Mouz and NXT just getting rolled.
Bro, what's happening in Norway? I don't know. What's happening here in Lofoten? How have we had a 16-4, 16-4, and now a 10-0 in the opening 3 maps of the tournament? I mean, this is very wild. This is Masonic playing incredibly well, and for Mouz NXT, just an absolute no response.
Sorry, Masonic have just taken a tactical timeout. Like,
I don't mind it, though.
That's just a full BM tack, though. Like, you don't need this.
Yeah,
You're doing absolutely fine. just bask in the glory and the absolutely lights out game you've played so far.
I mean, maybe we even look back at that last head-to-head and say, well, it was 41 days ago. It's not as if it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Possibly there's something that Masonic have looked at previously to try and prep. I mean, they've obviously got a lot less officials out of the majority of teams in this competition, so they probably anti-prepped quite hard for the likes of Mouz NXT.
It's clearly worked out for them. This overpass, an incredible map for Masonic, obviously their own pick as a result.
It's not even their go-to the majority of the time.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's just so stunning, the circumstances we're playing under today. Orp of Gensi posted. Catching Sled, not catching his teammate. Might go for a double dip though, and he does get punished. Meanwhile, Syrah back in from connector, ready to receive them. Nexius does catch one more, so it's a 4-on-4. Trays are decent, and now the advantage finally tipping the way of Mouz. Froslev looking for a challenge, and he gets it against Nexius, but now the AWP is in T-Sign hands at a 3-on-3. Is this workable for Mouz?
It is. It's very workable right here. You've got yourself some long control. You've got QQ coming out from T-Con. The issue is of how good Masonic have been at reading these late round situations, stacking up the right bomb sites. Now, Frostlev's got out of connector, he's cleared out short water, and he's seen nothing. So because of that, they're going to rotate Torsen up towards A and leave Frostlev as a hard B anchor.
Crizzen backing up to join his teammates, 45 seconds to figure out where they're going to play to. B would be the better contact on the basis of one individual standing out there. That's Frostlev. And no more cover to block off his vision.
Yeah, he's actually playing a massive off angle right now. He wants to take a fight towards Monster.
Might just win it as well. First man forward will be Jim Pat, spotted. Oh, what a deagle shot, okay. Mouz are in the round and they're in the B-bomb site.
Now, retaking mode coming in. Crizzen going to look up to the heaven control. The smoke doesn't land, but it actually gives them a kill instead.
Smoke down to extinguish the flames, provide some cover, and leave it all on Torsen to go for this clutch. And they've got so much money in the Masonic side, they might as well commit to this. They might lose an AK, but at this stage, you take that risk to keep Mouz held down. Only their second or third bomb plant so far in this game. Jim Pat detected, but Jim Pat wins the fight, and finally Mouz come to life.
It comes down to a half buy, an upgraded eco round, and I guess when you're still on nil, when you're at that kind of deficit, you're just hoping for anything. A couple of decent entries coming through with the upgraded pistols, putting some pressure down there towards connector. I mean, the turnaround here from Jim Pat, that's a very tough shot to hit.
I think people underestimate how difficult that really is to hit because you can't see it. You can't see him properly from that angle.
Oh, there we go.
And it's Academy, sat back and chilling.
I think that's Crizzen's brother there as well.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Unfortunately, hopefully there's some more success coming.
Nexius kill onto Gensi. Start out again for Mouz, and look, we are starting to get spooled up for Mouz NXT, right? Obviously, it's been a very, very awkward game thus far. Smoke's back defensive, not holding for Torsen. Froslev is around that corner in the short position, but Mouz intend to back away and try and contest with the aggression coming in from Syrah. His M4 leaning up into T-Con. Crizzen may be aware of this. Jim Pat certainly is, and he takes him down.
And that's just Mouz NXT recognizing the situation quite well, that they've got a couple of opening man advantage, just freeze. We know that there's going to be an info play. We know that someone's going to start making an aggressive movement to make a star impact. And right there, you had both Crizzen out towards the more T side of things, and then Jim Pat playing towards the top of T-Com.
Oh, very awkward engagement from Unlay. Jim Pat given a 2K and given the A site as a result. They don't even need it. B's completely opened up. Froslev is just looking to try and survive here. Again, lots of cash and does take down Jim Pat. But again, there's no way he wins a 1-on-4 retake.
No, not at all. Mouz NXT will be happy with these last couple of rounds, but they've got to sort of spring at least 5 to the tail end. You don't really want to give Masonic any more CT rounds from this point onwards. And the unfortunate nature is that forcing a reset is just going to be so tough because there is so much cash here for Masonic. Mouz. Feels like finally we're getting some impact out of the Finn himself of Jim Pat, and that's a positive sign because I think that is often the case, even in the online officials, a winning condition, a part of the roster that needs to perform to be able to get success.
If there's one person to be a catalyst to a comeback, it would be him. But very early days in this comeback, only the first 2 rounds for Mouz. The best they can do is a 10-5 half. And even that's not a promise at this moment. Masonic Going on to that 1 AK to do them decent here. We talk about the reads from Masonic. This round was pretty well read for the Mouz NXT boys up towards that top mid angle. The backstab especially counteracted because that could have been very deadly for Masonic.
Yeah, one play like that can ruin an entire round. 8 rounds the difference. Single AWP still coming through from Masonic. Now, I know that they are a team that don't often mind the double AWP setup. I know Overpass isn't a map that's fully forgiving, but even with this sort of money float, they're happy to say with the 4 rifles.
Early damage sustained on the Masonic side. Mouz took a nade to the face of Slend.
And notice how Masonic are actually playing a lot more passive as well, not taking the park control or getting up towards Fountain or even contesting the short water, realizing, let's hang back.
Oh, run boost countered so well for Gensi, but he misses the shot, and Nexius gets the kill. And now Sierra feeling the pressure, flashbanged out of here, manically panicking, spraying, desperate to get a pick back, and indeed he gets the bomb carrier, but forced to reload, gives Nexius his second.
And now there's going to be a bit of a rotation out for this B site. Perhaps leave Torsen as the only one left on B, but everybody else moved their way up to A. And Mouz NXT, they're still hoping for an info play, and Anle might be the one to give it to them. He's playing on the trash can now. Oh, this is turning into a complete gamble stack, perhaps, even.
All hands on deck. All CTs on A, and it looks like all the Mouz may hit A as well.
This is a good read. Anle's not seeing anything. Time is going to be very low. Oh, do they now think it's a B read instead?
Oh, this could be misdirection on a whole other level. Anle's looking out towards mid. Will he check the bathrooms? No, he'll lean into connector. They've gone the completely wrong way from the A stack. Perfect defense now to Mouz walking in for free. Oh, you couldn't have timed that worse.
And they come out towards Divider and even look towards that banana control, and there's no one. Anytime you go for an AXE or an A walk, you're always going to have at least one there. But that situation, Mouz had more players to long.
Oh, that is going to suck so much. That's one to facepalm in the demo reviews, but ultimately, like...
I think it just shows you can't read every round.
Yeah. Masonic did fantastic to read for 10. But now Mouz have outplayed them and pulled the wool out from underneath them. Third on the trot for the Academy side. It took them a fair while to get into this game, but now they are well and truly in it.
I don't know about that. They've had a few rounds. We'll give them that. One thing that I'll say is that it could actually start turning into a competitive affair, which we're hoping for. At least a back and forth affair, but you still got to look at the 10 rounds and say they're very close to closing out. It's not going to take long. All it's going to take, even in the second half, is a reset, and then what? You've got another 2, maybe even 3.
Well, look, when I take a look at half score lines, at this point, 10-3 feels like a very insurmountable opposition. 10-5, also pretty difficult, but not quite as much as it could be if it was what we were looking at earlier, which honestly could well have been even worse than a 10-3 at this particular stage, with the way that Masonic were playing, with the way that Mouz weren't answering them. Give credit where it's due, but obviously, as I've mentioned many times, and as you mentioned right there, you need a lot more from Mouz to truly make this a tangible position to play from. Sierra is going to get tagged up early, the AWP of Gensi trying to get the responsive in, but no one from Mouz takes any major damage, negligible at best against Prison and Slend.
And that's just Masonic going back into round number 14, realizing we want to change the tempo up. We want to try and take some fights.
Flashbang completely misses Froslave, who lines up 2. Nexus and Prison are down. He tries to escape back. Jimpat also caught off by Unlay. And there's the Masonic we know and love.
It didn't take long, did it? Oh, even Sierra spots out that bomb. Doesn't quite drop it. That was maybe a slight overextension unnecessarily. But from this point onwards, I mean, you're just locked. You're in a 2v4. You've got absolutely no map control. Adela's got aggressive out here towards Connector, but he's got to be careful about aggressing too far forward.
He gets the bomb, though, this round. Any chance they had in it is completely over. Slend now 1-on-4. Tech9 pulled out, knows that Unlay's around this corner. Backup is slowly starting to rotate. Up here in the M4, just wins the fight outright. 11 on the board for Masonic, and I said that 10-5 looks like a very an okay scoreline to come back from. 11-4, lesser so. And even
it's like 1 round difference.
Oi, come on, tell me. Tell me you haven't seen situations in which 10-5 has been covered. Pistol conversion, rifle, it becomes doable from there. 11-4, probably not so much.
I think overall, Masonic have just completely outclassed them in this game. And we spoke about that trio pack. We spoke about the Torsen, Unlay, and Gensi. Unlay and Gensi have been all over it when it comes to impact, and Torsen's been a B anchor, so he hasn't even had to do much in this series.
Smoke again. Syrah caught off by Jimpat. Kill found of the AK. Starting advantage again for Mouz NXT. Can they keep it?
We've seen Syrah playing more out towards connector than previously for Masonic. Normally you see him further up towards a bathroom, so that might also be something that Masonic are offering on that CT side because they are such a new roster and that they can be in flex, that they can move a couple of positions around and try and catch Mouz NXT off guard.
Just that one pick for now. We're going to a much slower style of default. Both Mouz and Masonic rotate back and commit in from the long position. But not entirely. They back away to regroup outside of Monster.
And Mouz NXT don't have much map control at all. You've got Torsen playing an off angle out here on B. You've got Frostlev contesting the short water. Masonic, no one's moving. It's actually become very stagnant over the last 15 seconds or so.
M4 held for Torsen. Shadow seen, but still not able to connect the shot. Nades and smokes being sent back. They've got one player watching in from the connector control. QQ able to get the pick on Torsen. Frostlev is back will be turned. Jimpat might not be aware of this, but he still misses his shot. Engaging Nexus and turns right back onto Jimpat, but ultimately unable to win that fight. 4-on-2 situation for Mouz to hold against this last round of the half. Masonic have no choice but to commit.
And like, just getting trapped out by the util. You've got Krizen close over towards his left-hand side. He gets caught off by the AWPer, and Jensen's just hoping for a miracle from this point onwards. A fourth round coming through from Mouz NXT, and a good timing there from Jimpat and a late lurk out to connect. It pretty much siphons off any potential of Frostlev stealing something back.
Well, I will say the end of the half was certainly much better than the start of the half for Mouz, but overall an 11-4 is a hell of a scoreline to come back from. But they better be praying that the CT side is their true sort of glory moments because, well, this map got out of control very quickly.
I think it's just showing that the nerves on LAN are definitely kicking in here from Mouz NXT. Yeah, you can maybe say there was an upswing towards the tail end there, but across the board, with this kind of Masonic side, you're expecting more here from Mouz NXT. Simple as that.
The only silver lining is that it's not his pick, but overpass needs to be far better from this Mouz side from here on out, especially their second half into the CT switch on the defensive line.
I mean, this might be something to even consider, Jay. Young Ninjas didn't have many HLTV officials coming into this event. Mouz NXT haven't played a HLTV game in 29 days. Is that also something that's going to be a hindrance, very similar to the Swedes?
Well, I can't debate against you with that, with what we saw from Young Ninjas yesterday. Masonic. The whole deck in their hands. As Mouz NXT prepare for the pistol. Julie's in for one. Glocks pulled out the entire T side line. He wasn't ready for Torsen to be that close though. Kill found. And they're in to the bomb site. Masonic wrapping over, and the CTs just rotate the hell out of the way. Mouz setting up for the retake. The bomb should get planted here.
I think this round's pretty much done already. You've got a late lurk out there towards a connector position. Jimpat's gone, and that's it. Now you've just got the rest of the CTs trying to retake, but there's no way they're going to make this happen.
5-on-3 scenario. USP's leaning forward. Krizen especially trying to prod them, see where Gensi is, but not land the kill shot. At this point, that's what they need. Torsen with one, Slen trading, but Krizen falls right back in turn, and Slen running out of ammo, running out of positions. To 12 on the board. Masonic continue to hold control.
And there we go. A bit of emotion coming through from Gensi because he knows that round's pretty much won us the map. Now, obviously, they're still going to stay composed. They're still going to realize that there's a few more rounds to win. But you've got to look at that from Masonic's POV and think about how much of a great feeling that must be going into the second half and instantly responding, instantly getting a round up on the board.
Force back in from Mouz, and any comeback they could get is starting to slip away of any sort of position. Force back in, the Deagles, the 5-7, the Scout. Trying to get some sort of basis to play from here. It's nothing compared to the Galils that Masonic have out.
Slend is hoping that he can get an opening man advantage out here from the bathrooms. This is a very centered B setup when it comes to the stack. Now, they've been able to force Adley further back out here towards T-spawn and actually connect towards a kill. They don't know about the next player of the bomb. That's Gensi trying to get out of trouble.
Back up to the side here for QQ, unawares of how much danger is right close towards him, caught in the jump. Froslev, easy pick. Diga and Nexius, known here, caught off. And once again, the advantage tips the way of the Danes.
And that's just Mouz NXT just being caught flat-footed. You've got a man advantage rather than playing passive in the bomb sites and jiggle peeking angles. You've got a reposition to try and get a jump up and instantly you're getting caught on a timing. You've got the likes of Syrah still down here towards Connector. He probably finds 2.
Or none.
That's still not a retake though, is it?
No. At this point, even the Galil might be more valuable towards the Mouz NXT side. No buy in the next round. It would be a little something to play with.
Oh, they might go for it now.
Okay, yeah, now it's on. Torsid falling out towards the short position. Jimpat is so low! And Krisen somehow gets away with that kill on Gensi. Now Froslev pressured. Is he aware of the scout? He certainly thinks the Slend might be moving in from Heaven Control. Spotted, shot to the back, tagged up, but now he's got to do this with a pistol. Teammate on the way in. Galil pressured by the footstep noises being made, and the CTs have done it. But the skin of their teeth, they steal back around on Mouz.
And that's nicely done there for the Mouz NXT roster because they find themselves in a position of the 3v3 where it doesn't look all that winnable, but then as soon as a frag presents itself, you go for it. And I think that's why they were hanging back. That's why you had Slend up at Heaven. You had a couple of players out there towards Connector. Possibly you look at that of Syrah, think could he have been more tucked? Would it have been better if he played deeper in that Connector position, more towards sort of the T-side perspective? Because right there, he could have wasted a lot more time rather than giving an advantage back over.
Now Mouz are getting into it. Now they're getting their voices heard. Now they've got an opportunity to get into the game once again. Glocks pulled out. Harsher eco basis. Masonic saving their loss bonus to go into the next round with a bye. So unless something really weird happens in this map, or in this round rather, this should be 6 for Mouz.
This will be an easy round to come through from Mouz NXT. There's nothing that we can expect here from Masonic at all. And I think it just shows because they got a bomb plant in that last round, they're not forcing here. If they've found themselves in a position where they lost the round but didn't get the plant in, they'd 100% be buying because of the double eco status.
M4 gooshed down on Slend, actually. M4 pushed back, in fact. Now on the bomb side, they could get a bomb plant out of this, but the one concern is the M4 of Jimpat that lines up 3. Makes it look easy against Kevlar's players, but that's the nature of the beast in an eco round. 12-6, within half the scoreline of Masonic. Mouz have 6 more to make up. Trying to close that gap. But now they're up against rifles here, as the gap could also extend from Masonic, and we've seen how well they can play at times in this matchup.
I'd want to say this is do or die for Mouz NXT. If you lose this rifle round, I think you're done on this map. Just because of the way that the economy sits, there's not a massive amount of loss bonus. If you want to respond with a comeback, it has to be now.
In a weird sort of world, if they eco in the next and then get a rifle out for 14-6, then you could still see a way in which they could deny.
But then we're talking like mathematics. We're not talking about the actual in-game.
Exactly. So you are right. This position Mouz have found themselves in is extremely tough to play from. Masonic know it. M4 held, flashes in ready to go towards that short position.
It is intriguing that Mouz NXT are running a lot of 4-1 setups in the early round and just have Slend jump spotting out here from DICE.
Going to be able to hold off against the initial contact, but no further than that. Syrah with the opening kill. Jimpat able to get the trade back through that smoke. A 4-on-4. Gensi elsewhere does find Nexius on the back lines. The rotations pretty respectable from the CT forces, but cut down before they can have any impact. Bomb plant secured. 3-on-3 for the retake.
And now you've just got to slow it down. You've got a lot of territory to work with out there towards the connector sightline. Adley is trapped out here, though.
Flashes, send, unlay it, not be able to get punished by it. Jimpat trying to make his way into the site, onto the bomb is where he'll look, but they'll swing towards it, just covering fire, trying to get this man up. Molotov sent, As Unlay gets his pick, he's known. The other two are not. Jimpat finds that first, taps the bomb. Now Froslave caught off damage. QQ gets the kill. Jetty spotted, but he lines up a decent frag now, needs it into a 1 versus 1. QQ charging him down. M4 picked up, taps the bomb. Can't win the fight. And just like that, Masonic bounce back.
He's 2 from 2 in clutches, isn't he? He's done exceptional work in those 1vx situations. And we just spoke about it, Jay. You need to come through on that last round. They do well in the trading game. They get themselves up to the truck position. They tap the bomb. They're drawing the fights out in the open. But it's Jency again. Him and Anlay have been playing so exceptionally well over the course of this T side. There we go. Big round there.
Broken buys for both sides, though. Casualty-heavy round. But the MAC-10 of Froslave will try to charge into B-site anyway. Many defenders around here, and the utility basis for Mouz is very good. They will keep them suppressed. They'll force them back at a monster.
I like that. So Masonic wanted to go for a quick monster pop. If they get a kill, they commit. If not, cancel, fall back. And look at how much util they've baited from Mouz NXT. We're a minute 20 on the clock. They've got a smoke and an incendiary. That's it. That's all they've got.
Just use them both right there.
See you later.
Smoke molly combination to suppress over towards the monster control. Nothing else from here, and they weren't even out there, so it doesn't really do much. There is a push forward from that short pipe position, though. That could be interesting on the CT forces. Nexius is not going to spot them. Jimpat has seen players out towards long, though.
Anlay's going back into monster too. He'll probably catch off Nexius. Yep, there's the kill.
Slend caught off, damaged up. Jimpat going down. Slend can defend against 1, but surely not 2. 4 on 2 now for Masonic. As Krizin just holds his nerve in the corner of long. Jency leans up and Unlay is going to get caught. QQ with 1 decent responsive. Now Krizin's just going to hold his nerve for 2 players. Checked in the corner, Jency knows. And QQ's all that remains.
And that's a great check there from Jency. And for QQ, I mean, you can't go for this. you really can't go for this. You're desperate, but you can't go for it.
At the same time, though, what can Mouz go for in the next round? Money is a cripple. The M4 is at least a bonus in that respect. But just the situation that they find themselves in. (14-6). Masonic had a bit of a hiccup in the mid portion of the game, but ultimately their map to rule, their pick to dominate. They have dominated pretty well thus far. At least QQ will make it somewhat expensive towards the tail end of that round, but a lot more to be done from here.
Look at that timing as well for Anlay, because Nexius comes that over. He aggresses out monster, doesn't see anything, goes, okay, well, I'm going to go back towards short pipe, hold the short water. Anlay gets a timing, and then from that point onwards, it just scrambles the CTs. They've got no idea what's happening with the setup. When you're that light on utility, you're always going to struggle to hold off on the bomb sides. And even Jency, man, that's a very good check out there towards the left-hand side, because that's almost one of those positions that if it gets overlooked, you could just lose the round off of the back of it.
2 more rounds for Masonic to make it past map 1 and send a statement to Mouz NXT. Their pick, their home and their domain to rule, most certainly. Flash is sent, MAC-10's first thing in. Slen's gonna hold down with an SMG of his own right to wrap the corner, but nothing gained from Mouz here. Deagle's on site, got a land against the first. Can't quite get the second, indeed he does actually. Alongside Krizin's support, the adjustment towards short is not quite there, so it's a 2-on-2.
And now it might just be a free setup here for Masonic. Slow it down, you've still got plenty of time, you've got the better rifles. Just wait to see what the response is gonna be here from Mouz NXT. Do they start separating?
5-7. Looking to take a fight, a risky one at that, where the rifles is desperate for one. M4 QQ now on the scene, going to form up with Jimpat. That was an end of 1 player's crossbar grill already. He'll be adjusted towards, but Unlay gets the pick in, and now Jim, with it all to do, sees the first, unawares of the second. Now should have been trying to grab that M4. It might have fallen through the gap of the bridge. 58 seconds, there's so much time to play with. And 2 little firepower for Mouz. It's map points.
I mean, even Jimpat, right? He was 1-8. He's now up to 16 kills. even though it looks like, statistically, he's been playing quite well, which he's been able to put numbers up on the board, have they turned into round victories? No. And I think that tells us that the majority of kills he has had hasn't created chances, hasn't created round victories. And it shows that by the scoreline of 15-6.
9 map points to come back to. I have my doubts about Mouz making it up. Especially with SMGs versus the full gambit of AKs and a Galil. Gensi, the one Galil, in fact, in play into the short control. Frostlev against 2 players in a connector. Nexius can get one back to return. There's 1 out of many required for Mouz.
Slen's going to start hearing this rotation come up from top com pretty quickly. Could try and get himself out towards the bathrooms. He's got to get a multi-frag here.
Their backs to turn. He just gets the first one, though. Try just towards Torsten. Not going to happen. AK, straight headshot. Bomb's on its way in as well. Mouz. Nexius to back up. QQ also to slowly rotate away. Mr. Galil waits. The last true lifeline that Mouz have here in this matchup, standing in the pizza corner. Torsten's just going to wait to find his moment, wait to pick his shot, and he picks it perfectly. And that should seal the deal on overpass.
Just look at that round. 3v2, slow it down, be fake, just wait. They've got so much patience in this entire map, and they've played so well off of the back of it. And QQ finds himself in an impossible clutch situation, being peeked in from Torsten. I'm impressed. That was a very good performance today right there from Masonic on their map pick.
How sick was that? Utter domination, a matchup there. I mean, look, I held out hope to take a map in this particular case, and I was hoping that, you know, they'd be able to do some decent work, but that was a lot more than decent, honestly, Dwayne. That is a 16-6 with a 10-0 start. It doesn't get much better than that, honestly.
No, it doesn't. That's an unexpected result from Masonic with the way that they played, but I think it shows LAN experience up against a team that doesn't have it. They're in their element. They're emotionally in a great position in this series.
Yeah, and look, you just got to take a look at how that early match started off to see that the players weren't quite themselves. So you were onto something, I think, with that whole LAN experience thing. The environment is so very different between online and LAN positions, and even between certain different LANs, right? Like, this obviously isn't the stage environment, so that will, of course, have its impact, right? But in this particular case, the lack of any sort of offline potential for Mouz left guys like the stars of Jimpat, what, they had 2 kills or so by the time they got that first sort of round on the Mouz NXT side. Like, that was such a long period of nothing almost from Mouz that is the key concern we talk about when it comes to experience in that capacity.
I mean, that map was lost by the first half. It's just as simple as that. They didn't get started at all. They were struggling to get opening man advantages. They were struggling to open up space. They weren't getting into positions of punishing. And I think Masonic just simply outclassed them. That was just the bottom line. They read the game incredibly well. They made some great adjustments with opening picks. I mean, they got creative as well. You had a couple of boosts up at party, a couple of boosts down there towards the B side. You had some lurking going on towards connector. They played a game by the book, but also had some creativity.
Well, tell me a little bit about the creativity, a little bit about that. I'm told you have a round that you want to highlight from this matchup. So talk me through exactly what you got for me.
Yeah, so this was slightly later on into the game, and it was the B-pop fake that actually started out from Masonic. So you kind of got Frostlev smoking off here towards a short pipe to disallow any of that map control. They try and hunt down the likes of QQ, try and get an opening pick towards B. They realize, okay, it's not happening, freeze. Let's fall back, let's cancel, let's just sort of wait around, see what the further response is, and they've got to know that Mouz NXT are not on a greater supply. They're not going to have a massive amount of utility. So end up regrouping, starting to take back some of this T-con control. Nexius, this is where things go wrong for Mouz NXT. He's out here towards short pipe, and later on into the round, what he ends up doing is getting aggressive towards that monster position. Now, Anlay, as a lurk, finds himself in a position because he doesn't fall back with the rest of the squad, because he doesn't go all the way back to T-con. If there is an info play, if there is someone to get aggressive, and bang, there it is right there. Nexius goes out towards Monster, sees absolutely nothing. Then they spot Jimpat towards the bathrooms, so Unlay comes back. He tries to put pressure back on towards the B side. They get the kill, and it scrambles it, right? Slend wants to try and go out to the bathrooms to help them out. They don't know about the connector player. Slend then gets caught between the two, and I think that just shows right there from Masonic the manipulation of rotations. Unlay even goes out towards the B side solo just to get an idea of what the setup is, and now you're in a 3 versus 2. Gensi hard clears this left-hand side position, and the round's finished. That's as simple as that.
Perfection again for Masonic, and one of many rounds that you could highlight as perfection overall. Like, these guys were just absolutely on fire in that first half, especially. The second half kept elements of that over, and that is, of course, their map pick most certainly going their way. In a similar capacity to what we saw yesterday against 0-0 Prospects and the Young Ninjas side, there's not a lot of hope for Mouz NXT going into Vertigo.
They're in a very tough position because Vertigo is a very good map for them online. And when you look at that performance and when you look back at yesterday, yeah, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be coming back in thinking, geez, we've got to put something up here. We've got to really strengthen and play like we do online, because I think we've seen the success from this team. We saw it on Mouz NXT in the previous MistGames event.
Well, so far, Mouz have been unable to translate their online success into LAN performance. Their next map of Vertigo will have to see the tastemaker that changes all of that. After this short break, don't go anywhere. Disappointing start, you could say, for Mouz NXT as they look towards their known map pick of Vertigo. We're going to see whether they can try and improve their LAN performance. I'm Jay, I'm joined by Dweg, and now we're joined by Miltsy here on the, I don't even know what we're calling this, the throne room or something?
Yeah, the throne room, I like that.
We're joined in the throne room now by Miltsy, who's obviously been watching the game. We saw you on cameras earlier. What went so wrong there for Mouz NXT in your eyes?
Well, I really think that they couldn't just get the trades at all. They just went like together all the time, but they just couldn't get the trades.
And that's concerning going into Vertigo, right? Because I think when you look at this Mouz NXT side, we always look at Jimpat being a very crucial moment. We know that Nexia's like setting it up ramp on T side of ramp as well, opening up space, trying to create impact. It just felt as if early starts were just not there. And I want to ask you, do you remember what it was like playing your first LAN game for ENCE Academy? Because obviously this is their first LAN game for Mouz NXT.
Well, we had a lot of pressure, and I think we won the game, but we had many struggles, and it was very hard to play on LAN like versus teams. So.
I mean, that might be a thing we haven't even mentioned, right? Is like, what is the pressure going to be like for these guys? Even though it was Overpass, it's still the first time they're representing Mouz NXT on LAN.
Well, again, the key silver lining in the case of Mouz NXT is the fact that this is their opponent's map pick in that sort of sense of Masonic. I mean, it's not a very great silver lining because it was still a 16-6 overall. But you look towards that Vertigo and you hold out hope that given the fact that they have 16-2'd Masonic in the past, there's still a world in which you can still be confident. And Miltsy, I know that you've obviously had your own experiences playing against Mouz NXT. How difficult is it to play against them on that Vertigo?
They really know how to play the map, and I think Masonic will have a really hard time like figuring out how to win this map.
So you don't reckon they can close it in 2?
I don't think so.
Ooh,
wow.
Okay.
I mean, history definitely sort of sits there in that sort of
yeah.
sense, right? Again, like the 16-2 is sort of end result, but after that 16-6, does that not like affect the team's confidence in that sort of way for either Mouz or Masonic?
Yeah, it for sure will like make a difference like in both of the team's confidence, but I really think that Mouz will win this game. And map as well.
I mean, Vertigo's a go-to. It's been picked 29 times in the last 3 months for Mouz NXT. It's always the map that they try and offer in best-of-3 vetoes. The issue is, what is the LAN vibe still going to come off of them? I mean, the fact that you're just losing round after round. I mean, the first, 2 opening rifle rounds they had an Overpass, they didn't even get a pick. It was 5 players staying alive. That's got to be very concerning when it comes to opening rifle rounds.
Yeah, certainly.
I really agree. Like, it must be really hard, like, going after that kind of a start and try to win the rounds.
Well, look, if they do get off on that bad foot, and if they do end up conceding that many rounds that confidently, then yes, you can probably start to see where the issues are cropping consistently for the likes of Mouz NXT. I have a lot of reservations after seeing how that map went down, honestly, but I also feel like for Masonic that they were playing a lights-out game, that yes, it wasn't quite working out for Mouz NXT. At the same time, you look at the confidence that we saw from Masonic, and I feel like there's equal parts to blame, both the success and the failures in that sort of sense. Like.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Jimpat, right, plays mid-lurk on T side of Vertigo. He also plays mid Guardian kind of area on the CT side. And I almost wonder, for the likes of Jimpat, do we need to see more from him? Does he got to make something happen?
Perhaps we do. Miltsy, we're about to start the game, so I want to get some predictions, thoughts, and feelings. What's the win condition here for Mouz NXT?
Mouz NXT will definitely win this map. It will be 16-9 and Jimpat will be beasting for sure.
16-9 with Jimpat beasting. Okay, awesome. Well, Miltsy, thank you so much for your contributions. We appreciate that. We're getting stuck into the pistol round. The USPs and Eagles are coming out as appropriate for the CT forces of Masonic. Mouz NXT into their default, playing around stairs initially, but get back into the ramp control.
Hey, you've got Kristen playing up towards top mid. Everybody else is regrouping to the bottom of ramp control. Now, Gensi and Sierra are actually pressing very aggressively down here from the bottom of the forklift.
Gensi gets that opening frag for it. Jimpat in with a responsive. Gensi still still holding his nerve. Asira is the man to fall. The USP bullets landing between the players, so there's no more casualties down there at the bottom of ramp for Mouz NXT. 4-on-3 for now.
Yeah, well, it worked out for an opening man advantage. After that point onwards, it's been countered back nicely here from Mouz NXT. You've got a lurker looking down here from the bottom of the ramp position to try and see if the CT's aggressing from mid. Time is still very low, and Torsen's got the Julies on B.
Sat back behind danger. Waiting for someone to pop their head above it. QQ, first man forwards. Oh, adjustment perfect to the headshot, but no further than that. Slen with the responsive. Still the advantage sits here with Mouz NXT as Slen can double up, unlay down. Froslev all alone, trying his best to break his way forward. Slen caught off, damaged up. His teammate, similar story, but Slen gets the kill, makes it a quadra in the round, and a pistol round for Mouz already. A far better start than it was over there on Overpass.
That's a very good statement coming through from Slend. Averages a 1.20 rating across the last 3 months. And when you look at Vertigo, it gets played a massive amount here for Mouz NXT. 21 wins and 10 losses in the last 3 months. It's the most played map in the map pool.
As well as that, for Slen to get 4 kills in the opening pistol. Again, bolstering confidence. We talked a little bit about during the pre-show.
He was very quiet on map 1 too.
Yeah. Getting him started. Jim Pat also got a pick in that mix. So again, the 2 players that you look at being significant elements in this sort of in the star power sort of roles here. Looking at those guys, seeing that they are the ones that found the opening start. They combined to get the opening pistol. Now they've just got to fly forward with it from there.
As you've got Torsen playing as the B anchor and a double mid and double A setup on a force buy for Masonic. And it's a little bit gimmicky when it comes to the mid setup of having 2 players on the jump up. Asira and Gensi very defensive towards A, so Mouz NXT are gaining ramp control for free.
Carefully prodding against the pistols just in case they have some sneaky tricks up their sleeve on Masonic, and certainly we have seen that over the course of the day so far. Deagles in across the entire board. It is a force invest for the CT forces.
Yeah, one thing that Masonic have done very well at is stacking up bomb sites. Now, in this round, there actually hasn't been a massive amount of movement, and QQ is still expecting a late lurk to come in and wrap in from behind. Asira jiggling down, trying to see if he can spot that first point of contact, but with the cross smokes in, this should be an easy bomb plant.
Nice nade damage done to the T side though. Masonic have a HP differential, and QQ almost goes down to that secondary HE. Gensi down near found him. Jim Pat not that better off. Slend also tagged pretty heavily here. Bullets flying through the smokes, hoping they can catch off players. The smokes come back in a little bit deeper here for the Mouz NXT side. That bomb finally does get planted. Jim Pat takes even more damage, but finally the retake is on.
They got 2 players out here towards the alley side. Gensi's waiting for a flash. They've got to commit in quickly. They've got to try and create some chaos.
I think you spotted Slend there. Mac 10 and Nexius falls back into position. Better to leave the rifles to the range game. Khalil continuing to fight back. But Khalil's actually boosted up out towards that alley position. Grism does find Gensi. Meanwhile, QQ's going to get overwhelmed on the bomb only for a moment. They do get off of it as Jim Pat and Nexius can combine, take them all down. Move that last player from play, make it a second for Mouz NXT.
You just felt there from Masonic, they were hoping that a single spam might have given them an opening man advantage, but that round was pretty much won as soon as the bomb went in. A 2-0 start for Mouz NXT. Very little for Masonic to work with come the next round. And even when we think back to that previous head-to-head that we were talking about, Jay, just over a month's time, Vertigo came in at a 16-2. Masonic would definitely look back on that game, wouldn't they? There's no way that when you have a scoreline like that, you're not going back over it, especially when you're playing these guys in an opening matchup in a playoff bracket.
Key thing to remember as well is that lap also started off on the T side half, where Mouz went 13-2 above that Masonic side. So anything they can do in this first opening half of the matchup to try and deny that once again is going to be encouraging for the Masonic camp. Nexius. Mac tends to wrap the corner. Torsen not quite going down. The USP finds a double dink. Mac 10 allowed in for the mid control though. Crizzen going to throw a spanner into the works by taking Froslev. Looking for a little bit more out towards the backside.
Just trying to farm up as much cash. Masonic got to hope that they don't take too many deaths to the back 10, and now they've actually found themselves in a position where they've got a man advantage. And lays alone out towards the B side. If he deals with QQ, this could be on.
Taken damage and lost the man advantage now. The flashbangs are very well placed here for the CT side. QQ to 17, now Slen's got to take the mantle of the aggression. The bomb's on his back. Unlay knows it can't be the player that he damaged up earlier, but backup has arrived to the B side. If they continue committing here, this bomb could still go down, and finally they think better of it.
I'm super nervous in this round, because these are the kind of rounds that you really don't want to find yourself in. A rotate from Gensi back out here towards the A side with the Mac 10 as well.
Got a HE, he's going to put that down against the bomb carrier. If it's passed off to QQ, then he's in dire straits. But I think Slen's just going to go ahead and commit down that at the default angle. He'll tank some damage, which will make it even better right now for the CT side. Down to 15 HP, Jimpat down to 30. The follow-up HE will not quite connect to it, but the MAC-10 will. Advantage now for Masonic. 30 and 17 on the bars of the T side. It's getting very dicey. Diffuse, tapped, one's being covered off from the CTs, but Jimpat has called their bluff. Smoke in the way, spray back onto the diffuser, have to get on it again. Unlay tapping it a second time, there's no kits in play. The MAC-10 gets his pick, Jimpat being flanked, and Syrah can get that kill. Unlay can get the diffuse, I think.
Jay's got it.
Yeah, he's got it. Plenty of time. First on the board for Masonic, what a steal.
That's utterly embarrassing. There's not much I can add to that. That's a USP round, mate. There's what, a few HEs, there's a stacking involved. That is a round that you should never, ever be losing. And for Masonic, that is just such a breath air of feeling of, we've just gone into map 2, it's your map pick, you've gotten off to a decent start, and we've just won a USP round.
Masonic, we've already been playing the heavy mental basis game, I could say. The momentum that they've had, the constant pressure against Mouz to keep them held down on a scoreline basis, and now with that round just to add to that tally. Slend caught off by Syrah prodding initially in from the Tarp's control. Orb shots missing, and I think he's down there somewhere though.
I got the endpoint smoke deep into the ramp presence. Torsen's been able to get a pick out here towards the B side. Nexius trying to see if he can commit up an entry. Syrah down on the other side will get caught, so there's a response at least from Mouz NXT to ramp.
1-for-1 trade. So very contained. CTs hold their nerves. The T start to regroup and look on to that stairs angle. Torsen to defend.
Torsen's a very good B anchor here for Masonic on Vertigo. Looking out to the right-hand side, didn't quite see that boost up. Gensi can be faster rotating from CT, though.
Dead. Double caught off by Gensi's AWP. Flash is sent over from the third man as well at the scaff. Slend is desperate for the man to give him a peek, to give up a life, but nothing's coming his way right now. Torsen trying to lean in, the Galil hoping to catch him off, but time is ticking away for Mouz here.
Slend is hoping for a jiggle, hoping for an overextension. Look at this from Torsen, man. He's not even peeking, just so composed again.
Flashbang, Cat is staying completely blinded, but he's going to cross past that anyway.
Just in case they had a molly, then he would have been forced out in the open anyway, so it's a very good cross with that flashbang.
Now Mouz going for the save call. Don't have much of a choice, couldn't break through. Must have been allowing so much time for the rotations to get here. They had 3 players on that B defense, nothing heard towards A, no need to rotate, no need to counter commit.
And even if we think about the chain logic, right? You win pistol, you win the force buy, and somehow you've now given the lead back to Masonic. And that comes off the back of winning a USP round, because yes, it's 2-2, and you say, okay, it's not the lead yet. Well, they're not going to get a buy up in the next round. You've got 2 saved-in weapons. Your economy is in such an awkward position if you're this international squad.
2 apiece as a result. See where the money line sits, see where the buy sits here for the T side. Well, there isn't a buy, in fact. Those 2 rifles, the Orb and the Galil, being the only things into this round. Glocks across the board. Harsher eco around it. Kind of need this bomb plant to stabilize the economy state of its own right on the T side. That was the key concern when you save rifles in this capacity. It probably was for the best. Now they're going to make the better of it.
Now, Frostliv's got to be careful with how aggressive he gets out towards his mid control, because they do know that the buy is rubbish. Syrah, aggressive down from mid. Now, last time he was there in the gap, he actually did get caught off.
Nexius first man in, they try prod for info. Rifles are right behind him, Slend giving up the game and exactly where he's at. Syrah passing utility back to his teammate over at the sandbags. Incendiary is thrown again, trying to try and disrupt the T-side line. Prison's finally going to reveal himself, and Syrah able to get that pick back. QQ with a decent responsive now. Jensen's going to get caught back here. No Molotovs inbound for the T-side line to try and force him out. Not like it matters. They'll charge him down. The AWP will find that pick. QQ with a responsive to a 3-on-3.
And this is getting uncomfortable, but Anlay already has the backstab. He's down here towards the bottom of ladder that can come through from Rab. That means both Frostliv and the likes of Torsen could just play defensive on A.
30 seconds again. Mouz need to make a move. They're taking too long with this. AWP just prodding around, smokes it down to the CT forces, so Frostlev is covered off there from the alley control, where Nexius is, of course, making his way up towards, they're going to have to charge forward of it. Glock, let's go inbound, 15 seconds. Pushing ahead, Frostlev, a little bit late from Nexius, get that rifle right back. Bomb needs to get picked up, needs to get planted, but Unlay on the backstab. Swing to the hit, denies Nexius, transfer to Slen, actually gets the kill. And just saves the round for Mouz.
Okay, well, a little bit embarrassing for both teams now. So we're equal. We're 1 for 1. I mean, that's a round again. You can look at that from Masonic's POV and say you shouldn't be losing that. There's an AWP, there's an AK being safed in, and not a lot around it. It gets awkward out here towards a ramp control. Jensi feels like he just has to fight. Frostlev only gets one, and then Slen deals with that rotation. Jeez, what a flick. That is a tough shot.
Well coordinated there from Mouz to sacrifice players at the right moments. Now the AKs are back in full force. No Galils this time. AWP for Slend as well. No AWP for Masonic though.
Jensi will have to just focus up on the rifle and smoke off the bottom of the ramp sandbag and try and peek in and around at him with Syra. Nexius has already gained the TARP's control.
Molotoving out the alley position in case there are CTs holding it. But not opting to press as of yet. Krisen, however, is going to press forward ahead of the smoke. Sees where Jensi's at and gets the double up. Nice and effective. A site almost cleared out. There's only one man in Unlay. Back in the corner, surrounded by T-side players. And surely should not last long.
Yeah, Slen's holding this with the AWP. This is a Pika's advantage for the T side, but he looks the other way for a moment. And Anlay's actually getting some support from Torsen.
50 seconds. Nexius is just going to hold that position and hope that Unlay overextends. They might have to make a play on the bomb site to force that out, though. And again, Torsen is on the site. As you mentioned, 2 players to hold the defensive here for Masonic.
The time is stalling. Unlay, if he goes aggressive out here towards Gap, he's going to get caught.
Half a minute to play with. Going to press the issue. Unlay caught. Nexius kill found. Double up found. And there's that Mouz firepower we talked about over the course of the day and many times in the past as well. Finally getting into their groove on their map pick as they extend their lead.
That's just very good patience in that round. They slow it down completely. They wait for the CTs to make the play before they execute up to the bomb site, and Nexius just holds out there from the Gap and alley sight line. Krisen tries to get aggressive out towards CT, make sure that Frostlev doesn't hold on to anything, but he will save the M4. And Mouz NXT can extend their lead by a further.
There's not much cash around the M4 though, so Masonic in general might have a bit of a bad time buying. Have a look what the money line looks like in a moment's time, but for now the scoreline indeed does read 4-2 to Mouz, and again to contrast that to what would at this point be a 6-0 for Masonic. It's a far better improvement for Mouz map to map.
Yeah, one thing that I know you enjoy, Jay, is a couple of storylines, some gimmicky stats. Did you know that Masonic have never lost Vertigo on LAN in the last 12 months? They've played it 4 times. 16-5 against Tricked, a 16-11 against Tricked, a 16-14 against Pain, and a 16-11 against Astralis Talent. The last 2 times, in fact, on LAN, they actually picked Vertigo in a best-of-3.
Certainly, again, fuel to the LAN experience fire that we talked about over the course of time. Small tack came in there for Mouz NXT. Despite being on the front foot, know that they could lose it any second. They've already lost out an eco round to the Masonic side, and one should be inbound again, that one M4 being saved. But USPs on everybody else here, Dwayne. This, for all intents and purposes, is an eco.
Hey, you got Sarah getting aggressive up here from the mid-control. And losing that fight straight away. I think it's a triple boost out on B to try and get that M4 to look down towards the mid-control once he gets slightly wider from Frostlev.
I think he was focusing more on the stairs there, honestly. Either way, they dismantle it. Back into spawn, figure out a new angle of attack from the mid-control. A's completely undefended. Not like Mouz know this yet. Sonic slowly rotate into that A defense.
It's just going to turn into a gamble stack at this point onwards. Try and set up those USPs to peek on the contact of the M4. I mean, both work out quite nicely, and they're actually thinking about taking back some of this ramp control. You've got Nexius still working down towards a bottom.
Poke out of the AK. Spotting 1 and 2, nicely adjusted towards Frostlev, can get that one trade back. And at this stage, Torsen just goes ahead, grabs that AK, and this allows him from getting saved back in for the T side line. A little bit extra firepower here. Jimpat, however, does take him back. Will keep Frostlev from getting anything more out of the T side in this one. It will be a bomb plant on that B side. Back up, also coming around for the back stab. So Frostlev in this 40-second countdown to his demise. Not much longer. Then with 5 on the Mouz board.
And Mouz are going to be very happy with the start that they've been able to offer here. The T side's looking decent. I think we've seen quite a few exploitation mistakes on the anti-ecos of both teams. But when you look at the position they find themselves in on the rifle v rifle rounds, it looks promising. For Masonic's kind of sake, they want to try and respond in early with one of these rifle rounds rather than letting Mouz NXT build up a barrier of good cash, round streak, and of course extending the lead.
Getting no ops for Masonic. 1 in for Slend. Crimson is the first to fall, but Jimpat takes Unlay right back out of the fold. Him and Slend extremely low thanks to the efforts of the CT side though, so this might set up Gensi and co. For a respectable couple of kills and a round steal at the same time. Nexius has been allowed free reign of the A site though, and they might get caught off for this. Sarah does find Slend. It's going to indicate they're still down here towards the ramp default. And Nexus is going on a little journey, Dweck.
Now, I would normally say that this is a round-winning play. The issue is the bomb's still not in a good position and Jimhat's low HP. This is where Nexius needs to make a lot happen.
Backstab also incoming as well from the lower floor. They get Gensi in the end, but there is one man closing in the pincers. Finally, Nexius strikes, and that is indeed the wild card play. Maybe it was round winning. Torsen has something to say about that. He drops the bomb for a moment, but QQ picks it up and commits it to the bomb site.
And Nexius gets mollied off by his own teammate, in fact, trying to get aggressive out to the sniper's nest. At least he deals with the rotate in the elevators.
They know what's going on. Torsen, one pick found. QQ nades him back out to 65 HP, bringing the HP lines in at evens. Torsen needs that one headshot. Bomb's not planted for him. He can't stick it. He's got to win the fight outright. And that's exactly what he does to get his 3rd on the board for Masonic.
Do you know what I'm noticing, Jay? Masonic are more composed in clutches, more composed in 1vx's. This is, what, 3 times now that we've seen clutches go the way of Masonic, and Mouz NXT have not been able to come out on top. And Torsen very calmly gets his way up there towards the top of Crane. And look at it, doesn't even really celebrate. He just knows that's mine, that round's mine.
We wanted some showboating over the course of this week, Dwayne, and we got a little bit of it at last. It's every right to do so. Come at me, boys. Give me more clutches, give me more backstabs. You let me into that position. And here I am to take my round away from the Mouz NXT side. Of course, bomb plant bonus would enable the better buy for Mouz. SMG's in for Frostlev meanwhile, so there's still an opportunity to get right back on track for the international team, especially as QQ kicks things off on the right foot. Torsen down.
That's a ripper of an entry coming through out towards the B stairs. Now, there is a double mid play, and QQ's not extending all the way out, thinking that there could be a rotation out here towards the generators. Sierra's going to try and make a play just because they're down by 1.
Sierra leaning in, Slend caught, tagged up. Trying to escape, but Nexius comes up good against the man. 5 on 3. Gensi leaning up against QQ, caught sprayed down, dead to right, so a slight advantage tipping the way. Back to the even starters for Mouz NXT. Now Frostlev looking to press forward to the SMG, sees 2, gets domed in by the AWP. Unlay again, so quick to trade, but it's still not to the favor of Masonic just yet. Mouz NXT now going to force him back, burning at 60 HP. Regrouping with Gensi on the A site.
A deeper smoke out there from the elevators, and Anlay actually loses that fight. So Gensi's now in a clutch situation of a 1v3. They've got to think as if he could have rotated over from mid.
Saw how composed Masonic have been in the last clutches up to Gensi to try and prove the point, but in this case, Jimpat is too much to handle, and going from an extremely quiet element in that last map to now starting to develop himself a little bit. He's not quite top of the board as of right now, but look, he's doing much better at this stage of the game than he was in the last one.
Yeah, I think it's been a fairly average performance from him so far in Vertigo. Like, you got to remember the positions he plays. He's a mid player, and he's a mid lurk, so you're mainly going to get more impact out of him on the late round when he comes into a post-plant position, but he's been consistent, and I think some of his kills have actually warranted round victories, so they can be happy with that much.
The impact certainly is there. AK up Crizzen ready to receive the attempted impact to the CT forces. Four of them charging out towards ramp control, getting Slen. Torsten traded back, and Soroslev will also end up dropping. And they haven't left Nexius in for dead out here. They've abandoned him on the T-side line, so that kill can come through. A rifle gained for the two that remain. Potentially one more down there as well. I don't think Mouz can grab it and throw it away, so if they just hold on to these two rifles, at this point, the eco is very successful here for Masonic.
Oh, it's massively successful. One thing we've definitely...
AWP, in fact.
Yeah, one thing we've noticed today and yesterday is that teams are struggling with anti-ecos. That's got to be sort of said and looked at, I think, for the majority of squads is what protocols have we got in place when we're up against Glocks and USPs, because there's been way too many rounds that have been expensive. From Masonic's POV, even though it's not a round victory, you've got to be extremely satisfied with holding on to two rifles. And of course, allowing the AWP from Genty to come out. They might even go for a double AWP setup, maybe get Torsten on the AWP out there towards the B site if they really want to try and offer up a change.
It's a 7th on the Mouz board. Masonic. Going from a grand old time to grandly outclassed as of right now.
I mean, they've got to deal with Nexius. I think Nexius has been the most impactful player right here from Mouz NXT, and it's just those entries that he's getting towards tarps, getting up there towards the alley control, lurking down to the A site. If there's any player that Masonic needs to deal with the most, it's him.
Well, Mouz still making adjustments. Tactical timeout called in for them. Chance for Tobias to have a chat. You're right about Nexius and what you've been able to do so far. 14 kills in just these 10 rounds, surpassing the average as you would expect. Incredible stuff for him, making all the difference in the world. Mouz NXT thriving because of that. Gaining position, gaining control, and holding on to it so far here on Vertigo. That silver lining may start to turn into a silver block if this keeps going on, Dweck. Rifles set in, the AKs, the AWPs, the M4s, as you would expect. One AK in for Sierra, of course, and the AWP for Gency saved him from the previous round. Damage very early on towards Prison right here. Pretty chunky, but nothing major.
So this is maybe the change-up, trying to get the AWP in from A rather than for the mid portion of Gency. And notice how both him, Frostlev, and Sierra are a lot more passive out from the ramp control. I mean, in saying that, Slender's still been able to catch him off.
The AK down. Gency with a responsive, though, so Slend not getting off lightly, not getting off completely free.
It didn't move away from the angle. Rather than just playing the man advantage and playing it cautiously, he actually stays up.
QQ leans forward and Torsten's backed up behind the double stack. Adjustment not quite 100%. A lot of damage being done, but the kill goes the way of QQ. Smokes up to the back lines. Unlay will be heard. Flashbang sent to general direction. He tries to challenge on the outside. Indeed, he gets that pick, but QQ still hunting for him. He makes his way towards the outside of the site of Platt.
Unlay knows. He knows that QQ got a kill, so he's got to think he's around here somewhere.
But where? In the smoke, backed up with his teammates. Meanwhile, Nexius acting out towards the site itself. Oh, we've got Frostlev looking to engage. QQ does find that kill onto Unlay, and Frostlev falls, and the round capitulates for Masonic.
Now, Mouz NXT have a good counter-action out there towards the A site. The drop-off out from Orange gets heard. Gency has to peek because of the incendiary.
Let's get a pick for it. Mouz of one man on the B site, unawares of Nexius here. Gonna try and challenge him. Slowly. Creeping in from alley, checking out the tops, not giving up any information. Oh, what an adjustment that is! And now one more to go. QQ inbound from mid, USP's pulled out. Pistol doing decent work at this particular kind of HP, but the AK does one better, and QQ will win out the half for Mouz NXT.
And I think the young man at QQ redeems himself. Remember, he was the one that lost that 1v1 up against Gency only a few rounds ago. Now it goes the other way. QQ on the lean up out there towards the B side. Anlay, he gets unlucky there because he definitely knows that he's around the generator somewhere. What impressed me more, though, in that round was how Mouz NXT were able to respond up on A while QQ is in a tough position out on B.
It won't get any better for Masonic right now. Pistols pulled out of the half invest. Zero, the SMG, is the most one-up player here in this particular context. Pressing forward on his lonesome, though. Drops that SMG in an unrecoverable position here for Masonic. Nexius can get two. Unlay will fall the same.
And Nexius has put up a valiant fight here in the second map. And the first half's been all him. And for Masonic, when you consider the idea that one of their rounds was a USP steal, I mean, this is, I kind of think goes back to the conversation, is that you could be happy about keeping rounds competitive, but if you're not putting rounds up on the board, you're going to start facing scorelines like this.
"60 seconds for Mouz to do whatever they want at this stage. They've got the firepower to dictate the pace of this. The only real concern is if they make a mistake and run past Gensi without clearing the sandbags. But with Molotovs across 3 players, there's no real reason why they shouldn't put it out there. No smoke to counteract it either, so yeah. Forcing him out, takes the fight, loses, A site taken, that should be round.
This is starting to look like it should be a double-digit scoreline from Mouz NXT in this first half. Give themselves a lot of leverage, give themselves a lot of control moving into the second. And perhaps we do come into a situation where both of the map picks are one-sided. We saw a 16-2 previously for Mouz NXT. It's definitely in the same sort of ballpark this time around.
Not even going to give him a chance for exit frags here on the T side. Money's pretty good for Slend and QQ, but it's not like it could be the best thing in the world right now for Mouz NXT, so I respect the idea of them saving. Because even then, you're not even going to, well, not saving, but, you know, just keeping the rifles away from the CT side, because you're not going to gain much out of this kind of position.
And just knowing that even Masonic are on a 4-map losing streak right now on Vertigo, while it's been successful for them in the past when it comes to LAN, the recent results haven't been that easy.
It's a 9th on the board for Mouz NXT. Looking real solid, real clean, and it started right here with Nexius punishing the overly aggressive Syrah. And with that kill, everything else started to fall apart there. Tactical, called in by Masonic, because they need to figure things out.
And just knowing how many multi-frags Nexius has been able to find, how many opening man advantages he's been able to warrant for his team when it comes to Vertigo, it's very surprising when we look back at even the closed qualifier, because I don't think we saw much from him in either of those 2 games. It felt like he was fairly quiet, didn't get as much impact as he has previously. So coming into the home turf, coming into their map pick, this is more like it.
And this was their primary way back in after losing Overpass as heavily as they did. Mouz NXT. Back up against the guns here, M4s, AWPs. Default setting for Nexius to try and take the ramp control. This time all on his lonesome, had initial support from his teammates, but now with the Molotov and smokes in place, he'll just stick out there and try and make his way up tops. Meanwhile, the T's really want to hit the B site.
And Nexius is just getting so much map control again. Up against the AWPer, out towards a gap side, just playing anti-flash for the best that he can while the exit comes in.
Torsen stands as first defender, gets 1, not quite 2. The flashbang from Slend protects QQ, not for that much in terms of the HP bar, down to 30 HP himself. Syrah, meanwhile, finds another, so it is a man advantage from Masonic. The bomb will go down, flash up with the jump around the corner. Jimpact could get caught off the lineup for 2, leaves it all on QQ to ace, clutch this round. Flashbang over, but no further peeking.
QQ's just surrounded. A bomb plant here is just not possible at all. Out towards the B stairs, Adelaide's going to peek. Nicely done there from Frostlev. The IGL making something happen, even though it's a man advantage. He wanted to keep that pressure on, strafe around, make sure that 2 players fall, deny the bomb, and then, of course, just a line up to the second player out there towards the white position. And one thing that you might not know, Jay, is that Frostlev played ESEA Advanced Season 28 with Tobiz on Sublife. It was Soma, Insta, Frostlev, Tobiz, and Farlig back in the day.
All the Danish history. Just saw a run boost out towards the stairs angle. I think they're going to try their hands at something here, and indeed, Torsen's going to fall to prison for it. Opening kill found for Mouz NXT. And just when Masonic found a little bit of life once again, it seems to be snatched away in the early part of the round. Can they recover it?
Oh, you got Gensi still trying to fight up here towards the top of the crane position, as well with his teammate here, Syrah. I think both of these players have been very minimal with their success when it comes to the ramp holds. Flash around the corner. Nexius is taking more map control behind the smoke.
Making tons of noise, flashed against Nexius, gets the headshot in after a manic spray against the man, Syrah. Smoke to try and get Cross back out of here. Flashbang also sent over. Jump face. Unlay gets a kill against QQ. Meanwhile, elsewhere, 4 on 3, making it 2 as Prison finally sends Syrah plummeting to an early grave. Froslev on the fence. Spray so manic in Slend somehow jumps out the way and gets that shot straight to his head. And now the AWP is just going to run for it. Just save the AWP. Oh, disaster for Masonic.
It's been, I don't want to, it's not like a disaster. I think we more look at the positives of both teams and just say they've been incredibly impactful in both of their map picks. In both of their first halves, they've dictated a massive amount of success. And I think the bottom line is that both teams look comfortable on Overpass and on Vertigo. I don't think there's been any land nerves for either team that picked the map. I think they've both felt in the moment and in the drive both ways.
Wow, how do you even see that from Prison? That was so sick. This Slend kill was absolutely silly. Incredible. And as you say, equally confident. 10-4, 11-4 if they win this round. The exact same scoreline we saw Masonic take over at the tail end of the, well, actually just after the first half of that first map. A response and a half on their own map pick for the Academy side. The AK's charging, Nexius watching, Unlay, SMG holds back, Syrah finds the kill against Nexius, QQ next to try and face, the AK gets the kill in pretty easily, Jimpat's flashbang help with that, 4 on 4.
Torsen was in a position to peek up from the top of danger, but not in an angle in which he could find any further success. And now Krisen's dealt with the aggressive approach down here from the bottom of ramp portion. Syrah realizes he has to back off. He can't continue fighting.
Meanwhile, Jimpat flashed in, the assistance returned back by QQ, but Jimpat will fall back towards the trade. Slem with responsive, clears out the B site for the bomb to commit and get planted. And Becerra to try a 1-on-3 clutch in the closing round of the half.
Now, the rookie's had a tough time out there towards ramp, been punished previously. Syrah trying to get on the other side of the smoke. QQ's around the corner. There is a timing for a moment, but he's going to get seen. 11th round up there from Mouz NXT. That's an impressive first half. I think that they worked ramp incredibly well. They had some good variations in the mid-round of going back out towards the B-side. And overall, from Masonic, just didn't really feel like that they had much to contest there.
I don't know if you noticed, Dwayne, but we can hear them now. They had a nice big celebration there in that particular round.
Understandable.
You know, it's a case that in the previous map, there wasn't much to celebrate about, but now they're really getting into it from the game perspective, from the mentality perspective. Everything right now coming up Mouz.
I think now, for a young team like Mouz with limited land experience, you just want to make sure you're closing your map pick. You're not dragging it out. It's not getting to a position where we start thinking, is there an overtime? Is there a late round comeback for a 2-0? When you're up by this kind of scoreline, you want to make sure that you keep that confidence up, that you close it in a reputable time and fashion. So then when you come into map 3, you feel as if you've got them on the ropes, that you've got an advantage going into Nuke.
That's what they did last time they took on Masonic on the Vertigo. It was 3 rounds to the finish. It's close to 5 on the Mouz NXT side. Glocks versus USPs, a standard pistol round in the second half now. Jensi engages Nexius, gets that first, looks for a little bit more. Sten can respond, the sound as can Froslev. And Sten gives chase back with those jewelers, going to get that player out of the way of the lower bomb site. They're going to make their way up towards B instead. Bomb's on its way, they have all sorts of upper map control. Torsen just flanking into one. Prison does get Unlay, but Torsen there with a response.
Yeah, this is a really wild round, and even Syrah peeking back in towards the B stairs to peek on a contact to deal with the likes of Jimpat. There's a lot going on in that round, and I think one thing that we definitely noticed was as soon as Frostlev goes out mid and takes CT control, you know that Masonic have just got so much map control to start eliminating any of those rotating positions.
There's positivity here for the Danes in the early portion of this half. Mouz NXT giving up a little bit of a lifeline. How much more of a lifeline, though? Galil's on 3, AK on 1, Mac 10 on 1. Eagles part of the force buy here on the Mouz side. Go on.
Masonic played 7 AM in that qualification game to get themselves into this LAN event. Map 3 was Vertigo. It was an 11-4 T-side half for Masonic.
Indeed it was. That was also 7 AM. So...
Yeah, but I think it shows that they have the ability to have some very good T-sides. They've just got to prove it up against a higher caliber squad.
Just like Mouz are proving that they've got it in the LAN environment. Lots to prove here on Vertigo.
And then there's Antara's nades coming through. Unfortunately, Gensi realizes as soon as that first one comes through, just back off, because there's normally a second or a third. Ooh, boost up.
Yeah, get the AK in, or the MAC-10 in fact. One variation, nade stack against the bomb planter, ultimately tagging him to 4 points of health. Gensi, however, gets the opening kill at last. The Eagles facing. Unlay and Gensi are such low HP here. Froslev's the concern. Finally, Unlay goes down, but Froslev with a responsive. Slen can take him right back. Galil going to make his way into the defensive line as they continue hunting for these picks here on the CT forces. Gensi unaccounted for. Flashbang forward, gets 2 more picks for it. HP don't matter to him. And this round don't matter to Slen. He's out of there.
Gensi's had a very good series. And you think about map 1 and what he was able to do. Now you think about map 2, and I would even say that the majority of his impact has actually been off the AWP. It's been when he's had rifles out or SMGs and some of these impactful rounds. Making sure that you win the pistol, you win the anti-force bite. And Masonic now know, let's keep it up. Let's keep it tight. They're going to be up against a very light eco round come the next, so let's make sure we're not losing many casualties. Let's start farming up the economy.
Still got within a hair's width of taking it back for Mouz NXT, with the HP being where it was for Masonic. A few more shots hitting and maybe
definitely
going back their way.
Yeah, it was a tight round.
Not been easy, and it will continue to not be so. This round will be a bit of an exception though. USP is brought out on the CT forces. Deagle in. Again from Slen, save from the previous round, not bought in this one. What has been bought is the HE stack. MAC-10 sent in against Gensi. He does go down to Slen in the end, and Torsten falls to QQ. A-site's been conceded for these kills, but now even Unlay's taking damage.
And now they've just got to slow it down. Make sure the CTs don't get into position quickly. HE placement's very good to Unlay.
Be very concerned though. Half HP, transfer adjustment eventually does go down to Slen. The advantage stays here with Mouz NXT. Jim Pat's closing in the pincers at the backstab. He needs to be the winning element here. 56 HP, high HP involved in the CT side. Froslev catches Slen. AK adjusts back from Syrah, can deal with Jump Fat. And now QQ grabs that AK and runs for the hills. Right call to make in this case at 6 points of health. He's not winning that clutch.
Can you just imagine being Black or Tobiz on any kind of eco round? Like, both of them must just be so nervous because they know it's coming. They know that there's a very good chance that we take casualties, and, well, they took a lot there.
I mean, look, if I was either one of them, I'd understand why they have the hairline they do.
I can't believe you just got that one out. No one clip that. No one show it to him.
It's stressful, dude. It would be utterly stressful, and I don't blame them. Now's the time to install some confidence on the board, though. Rifles inbound, AKs, AWPs, M4s. The rifle set for Torsten, leaning around into the mid-control. Unlay, similar story. Jim Pat holds. All alone.
A super passive out towards the elevator side of mid, and Anlay just gets that fight out in the open. Jim Pat trying to reposition.
Molly's sent his QQ, now dives himself into the corner, but it's flying in general direction. Prison Core, 1 kill, double up for QQ. Gensi found only 1 responsive. It's a 3-on-2 now for Mouz.
And they're looking to try and split B, and they know that QQ's the last B defender. So as long as they force him back, they'll be able to take the bomb side. What they don't know about is this late lurk. Nexius outside of the B sides.
M4 catches Gensi, next bomb dropped. Back in spawn, now leaving it all to Syrah. QQ standing by to receive. Gets him. Effective, efficient, great kill.
Nice.
Providing no moment of respite, giving no opportunity for Masonic to turn that into a 1-on-3. Installing 5 rounds of difference right now between the CT and T sides.
And that's well played there from QQ, just towards the left-hand side of the Jenny. And then even the off angle that he finds out towards CT spawn. That's an important round, and that probably takes a slight amount of pressure off of the back of Mouz NXT, with just a few rounds that have come the way of the Danes into the second half.
Half invest pistols now for Masonic, as Mouz should be able to take control of this. concerning factor is the damage being done to the economy state, though. There's not a lot of cash in reserve, so casualties may be what Masonic are looking for here, just to do that damage and set them up for reset in the future. Right now, that's not successful, though. Prison and Jimpat finding Unlay. Now QQ holding his nerve back towards the defensive. Does find Jency with the last bullet in the magazine. Jimpat coming in with extra support. This round is falling apart for the for the T side.
Syrup just trying to see if he can make some impact happen out towards mid. It's 1 kill, it's a slight added bonus, but you're still looking for a slight amount more. You're seeing if there's another extension, if there's another player to drop. I mean, QQ is low HP.
His next target as well. Jump around the corner and caught by Jimpat instead, so 3K for him. Starting to truly get involved back in this matchup again, still having a bit of a quiet one, but at least keeping pace with his teammates. Again, it's mostly Nexius that leads the charge on that ball and is the man that has been consistently the performer in this rivalry on Vertigo.
And most definitely, Masonic realised the position where their backs up are against the wall. They know that they've got to respond in quickly. Zero and Jency trying to work the ramp control. Slend with the anti-rush in case of an aggressive maneuver up ramp. Torsten trying to see if he can make a slight timing happen up towards the top of the B stairs.
Early damage favours Masonic this time. Ooh, the QQ's about to find 2 individuals. Gets Froslev, almost gets Syrah as well. The flashbang sent, Torsten can respond.
Jeez.
Managed to find on Jimpat. Jency finds Prison elsewhere. Talking about capitulation for Masonic, it's capitulation for Mouz instead. Nexius next to task and he's been heard.
Now, that's a great round from Torsten. And when you look at this position from Nexius, he needs to multi-frag. If he doesn't get more than two or so kills, I think this round's done.
Smoke sent. Unlay gets his shot. And now Slender's got to save. And now that damage can truly compound again. Not a loss bonus really for Mouz and NXT, so that money plus 1,400, it's not looking amazing.
No, it's not. And I think you look at that round from Mouz and NXT, the way that they won that opening fight, perhaps they got themselves in a position where they were looking for too much more. Instead, they kept fighting up towards the top of the B stairs. Jimpat, I mean, from our POV, looks like he's got the adjustment. He's looking down from the bottom of the stairs, knows where Torsten is, but losing that fight then starts disallowing so much more from the entire squad itself. Yes, there's an exit frag to try and keep the AWP alive, but for Masonic, that's an all-important survival round.
Slen needs to be a bit more survivalist here. That AWP provides options if they opt to go for the force buy, but he's leaning into that mid control from ladder. Unlay is about to check him. Oh, knife pulled out. Smoke in the way. Defend yourself.
Oh, surely he goes down here.
No, he doesn't. Unlay just sticks it out. And Slen can just about keep his life as a result. So there is an AWP in play for Mouz NXT. Do they force around it?
Yeah, it's a tough one for Mouz. This is going to put pressure onto the IGL of Crizzen to make the right call, to put themselves in a position. Froslev. He's got to be looking at this thinking they're starting to sweat now. They're starting to get themselves in a position where we're now bringing it back. It looks very unlikely from the turn of the half. The difference is still 5. Like, there's still a lot of workability here for Mouz, but this is looking more better here from Masonic.
The buy is rifle filled, but lacking in utility in certain capacities. Frosled's going to punish out Crizzen initially, get that opening start. AWP of Slend caught off by Torsten next. Jimpat's going to have to respond, and that's exactly what he does.
Anlay is still trying to get a lurk out towards mid, so while they've taken top ramp control, I think Masonic freeze it here for a bit, try and see if they can force an overextension, an info play, and just cut the likes of Mouz NXT flat-footed in the mid-round.
Well, he's sent. Nexius catches Jency with the tightest headshot angle you want to take. 3-on-3 scenario.
Split B. Anlay's going to take the first point of contact out here at Guardian.
QQ's the man to defend against it. But Unlay does not look into the B site. He has his eyes set on the A player to cover off the rotations. The T's realistically decide to go for the A hit. Unlay's there to just cut those rotates, deny any potential for the last 2 CTs to go ahead and join their teammate. But one has gone the wrong way. The other has set the backstab, so head and a swivel and eyes on mid. Nexius feels it.
This looks to be a round-winning play because Anlay knows he doesn't need to move until there's contact from the B players.
Smokes and mollies being sent. Unlay can strike, or Torsten can strike instead. Unlay not even required. Back to turn. Oh, he pulls that utility. QQ brings it back to evens. Meanwhile, the M4 with the backstab dealt with by Syrah. So it's all on QQ again to clutch. One to his name. Grabs the AK and runs for it. No kit, no time, no round for Mouz.
And how many times, Jay, do we look at these kind of situations and favor the team coming back if they've got the LAN experience? Look at this from Mouz NXT. You are up by 11-4. You're now struggling to close. It's now 9-13. This is where you would have to assume that Torsen, Anlay, and Jency are in their element because they know their opponents are sweating it.
That was a big investment round for Mouz NXT. They had the full guns, but they had nothing in reserve. Not even enough for the kits. Tactical taken by Masonic. And really, it's Mouz NXT that need to benefit from this the most. They are the ones that are in trouble. Yes, they have the lead, but Masonic continuing to catch up, continuing to press the issue. And there should not be a buy on the table here for Mouz here.
Nah, not this time around. Position has found Mouz NXT in one where they've just got to settle. And we know that mental is a massive part of the game. And the last thing that you want to be achieved or be in a situation is the mental being destroyed. Keep it strong, make sure that everyone understands what the goals are, what the objectives are going into the next few rounds, what they want to try and achieve come the next rifle. And for Masonic, round by round, try and bring it back.
Masonic one tack, Mouz followed it up with a tack of their own. Yes, it will be pistols around the save door, passed off to Slen with a little bit of Kevlar in support. We have seen hero-like rounds from Mouz in the past. But this one does feel like it's a little bit too far gone. Slender's gonna have to do something absolutely magical to hold it, and indeed he does get Unlay, but not his backup, not the second man.
And Slen just gonna try and see if he can retreat. Syrah working out here from the alley control. Both players are up here with pistols. They'll probably be easy targets.
Well, one certainly is. Nexius, however, finds the trade. A 4-on-3, and Slend is looking in for a lot more. Jency is posted on a very tight angle. Both players backed up by that dividing wall. Slend will hold the crack position. Meanwhile, Nexius hurt by aim punch. Froslev leaning up into the site. Jimpat does grab that AK, run for it. I don't know if the Orb is watching it anymore. No, he's back on the site. Looking for Froslev. Can't quite find it. That backstab's inbound meanwhile.
Slend, all about a matter of timing. And how many times have we seen late round, these late lurks? Jency now finds himself in a position where he could target the AWP, and this is just wasting so much time off the clock.
Him and Jimpat grouped together, going to fall back. Jency, similar story to try cover off any potential rotations and take these rifles out of play of the CT side. Slenzor, the primary target. Jimpat, get rid of that AK if you can. Does land onto Jency though, so Slen bails out an exit strategy for Mouz. And they keep 2 rifles in. Again, mostly eco pistols, 3 players worth of damage. It's pretty decent in isolation.
Yeah, it's okay.
Masonic given yet another round on the board, however.
I think at this point, we've just got to be quite familiar with the idea that when ecos come out, they're going to be expensive. It's just as simple as that. It's come over the course of the entire best of 3. For Mouz NXT, you've got to try and follow that up in the rifle round. That's where you're going to be able to create the majority of your impact. Maybe try and get Slend in for a ramp pick, get an opening man advantage, and work off of the basis of that. Masonic have really just been running the 5 AK setup. We haven't seen any AWPing from Jency on T side.
AK swing, Jency caught switching out to utility. Crizzen couldn't have timed that better. Now trying to suppress his teammate as Syrah looks for something out towards the bottom of ramp. The head of the smokes, Nexius is hiding back at Tarps. M4 in, engagement not found. Nexius wins that fight. It's 5-on-3 for Mouz.
And that timing is just beautiful out there from mid. And then even towards the ramp side, you've got 2 players peeking down on an advantage. From this point onwards for Mouz NXT, you shouldn't be losing this round. Play defensive, play strong crossfires. You've got 5v3.
Flash is sent, Torsen. Stealing fire from the center of the site, looking to engage a spray down against QQ, doing damage but not getting the kill, and that's what Masonic need the most as of right now. 3 players on that B defense, and they're thinking better of committing there. They're backing away from mid.
Now, Anley and Torsen have been quite successful with these walks out towards mid, but they're being cancelled this time. They're just desperate to try and create something. It's got to be a B split in the end. Right-hand side generator smoke being lined up.
Land, 2 players peeking, and finally Torsen goes down. QQ reducing them to 2. As Frostlet falls, Anley is left alone. Slen there to close it. Well coordinated there by Mouz to find those trades and get those picks appropriate. It's 14 on their board, as now they're within 2 of the win.
And I think it just shows that this kind of map has come down to the thinnest of margins. That one duel could have been very different if there's an AK being pulled out, if there's not a molly going down towards elevators. And Mouz NXT find themselves in a position where they know that the economy isn't going to be fantastic, so they're going to be limited. This is where, for the international squad, you want to try and close at 16-10. Get this rifle round over and done with, force in a very awkward buy in the 15th, and then see you later. Map 3, here we come.
That is the focus, that is the target. Almost the expectation at this stage, because Masonic, now their economy's in ruin. Now their buy situation could be caught suspect. They have got AKs out, a Galil in, the Tech 9 though. Putting all their chips on the table to try and deny map point for Mouz. But it carries the risk of the map lost if they can't take this round.
And Jimpat getting aggressive out towards a mid-control, seeing nothing at all. You got 2 players trying to fight up from the top of alley. Now the NWP from Slen's been playing on that back wall up towards the fencing for the majority of rounds on A. Out to the B stairs, there's not even a contest. Instead, QQ's defensively out to default.
Taps of QQ trying to find them. Smoke lands too deep. He's going to burn. Got to escape the center of the site and take an aggressive angle against Genty. The spray goes so close, and Jimpat is forced to trade. Throws them and Syrah, take him and Crizzen right back. And the execute is Masonic worthy of taking control of the B sites.
And anytime you're on Vertigo and you want to go for that quick B exit, that quick B pop, you want to make it uncomfortable for the anchors. And I think they made it pretty uncomfortable there for QQ. He struggled to get that smoke down to the molly. He's being forced out the open. He's completely blinded. And I think once you then find yourself in that position, you're just done for. You've got to hope that you can spam a couple of bullets, that your teammates on rotation can help you out. Overall, though, from Masonic, that was instant entries.
It's 1 more for the tally. Masonic, 11 on their board.
I can't believe they've actually been given a way back into this game after that first half.
Yeah, Mouz back to not having a great time of it as of right now. Yes, they are in the lead. Yes, they've got some buffer room, but this one could be all wrapped up in this round, and they're just taking control of this and not made what seemed like a pretty round losing mistake there from QQ. Forced that into the open, the kills came in, and then the trades were followed up there on the back of the site. Tacticals in for Mouz. I think this is their 3rd one so far in this map up.
I mean, it's understandable why QQ puts the smoke in front of the molly, because if you just put it right down at your feet, you've got no cover to cross out towards default. He's trying to hope that if he gets that smoke on the front side of it, that it's not going to be able to spread all the way, and then he gives himself some cover, but obviously that's not quite what happens. From Masonic's POV, though, they've got to realize we're still in this. 3 rounds the difference. CT economy fairly limited. T-side economy fairly limited. This is quite a heavy swing round.
Mouz would love it to swing to their favour. This would be a map-winning favour. Torsen, straight up ramp control. CT is passive on the defense. They've got Nexius and Crizzen back of sight and back outside of alley. Damage to utility has been great against Torsen and Frostlet is going to go down for it. Torsen, next player up, supported by utility, but the incendiaries keep pouring into the CT side. Nexius trying to get closer at the alley entrance. Syrah going to challenge him and get the pick in. Masonic back to a 4-on-4.
They're still all out towards a ramp control. There's a lot of rotates here from Mouz NXT. They've got 3 players defending up towards A. And for Masonic, they freeze, they slow it down, they cancel for a moment. They want to see what the next response is.
Spray is doing damage against the T-side line, but Syrah's the man getting the kills. Crizzen next to fall. Sland Set with the AWP to watch outside alley. Syrah, man leaning in towards it as Slen starts to back away. They're going passive on Mouz.
Yeah, Syrah's just got 2 kills, spamming through the smoke, out there towards the gap and alley sightline. Slend is moving over to a gamble stack on B. And for Mouz NXT, I mean, this does at least allow a rifle round in the next round. You've got Jimpat that can drop over to Nexius. You've got the likes of Krisen that can buy himself. So we'll still see a full rifle round. We'll also see a 12th round from Masonic.
Again, it's that give and take.
There's not much taken, is there?
Well, at least you take the rifle round in the next.
I mean, we can look at that as a positive, but we also need to look at the idea that we've had 3 rounds from Mouz NXT in the second half. And how many times can we sit here and say, oh, well, you got to buy in the next round, you got to buy in the next round. There might not be a next round.
That's the give. You're giving up all those rounds to the Masonic side, so...
You have to put some success on the board quickly.
You're running out of time to do so. Yes, 2 rounds for Mouz NXT to take this map, but 2 for Masonic also to equalize the scoreline. And money is going to continue to be a problem from here on out for them. Those 3 rifles, crucial to getting a buyback here for Mouz.
Yeah, it just went manic. Right there, Syrah's not doing much, but just spamming up against the CTs that are doing the same. That was a highly contested area in that last round out towards alley. Mouz NXT just got to close it down. And for Masonic, now they've got more breathing room because they've got money to be farmed up at least.
Bring those weapons back. AK's M-Force, AWP for Slen. The adjustment from Nexius is right there against Froslev. Takes a ton of damage, but ends up with the opening man advantage.
And we've seen Mouz NXT get quite a few opening man advantages, but not quite close out the round. And you can use that last one as a prime example. And Torsen trying to work behind that banger molly. And Syrah actually finds that response. There it is, up towards A.
4-on-4 situation. Sent flashes over. Nexius just watching out for that ramp entrance, but Masonic are playing it carefully. They have 60 seconds after all.
And Mouz NXT are making an info play towards mid. One thing that I've definitely noticed from Masonic on T side is that in the mid round, they just try and reset and retake ramp control back.
M4 flashed off, blinded. Syrah checks him, and Nexius goes down. The AWP is Slen not allowed to strike as Torsen comes in from alley, closes out this one. A 13th for Masonic.
They're choking, man.
They are. This is getting into a very dire position for Mouz. Well, it felt like they were on track to hold on to this map pick, to hold on to their home turf against the odds, essentially, considering what we saw from Masonic in that first map, right? It felt like a bounce back from the opening half for Mouz. 11-4. They've only gained 3 out of 5, and they're losing these players. QQ down, Jimpat may have been detected. Syrah does get caught off. His teammate's going to go hunting. Will they reach him in time? It looks like they might do. Unlay around that corner. Jimpat holds his nerve for the time being. And he keeps his rifle in just about. But that's only a consolation prize to what they've lost to Masonic.
Masonic. Look at Syrah. Look at the young man go. This is what, 2 rounds in a row that he's got multi-frags. When you're down by rounds and you're 1 map away from going to a semi-final, I think that's proving ground for himself. We didn't know what to expect from Syrah, and I think, okay, yeah, he didn't have the best of performances out on map 1. In terms of impact on map 2, it's been here.
Yeah, he's taken over this game for Masonic. He's top of the board. 20 kills deep for him. Looking at this young gun, this new blood, this brand new player to find out what he's really made of. And here he stands, ahead of them all, ahead of Masonic, even his own team. Syrah, highlight man of the moment. Flashed off, blinded, spray through danger. Counter flash to the T side will catch up information to QQ, or do they? Torsen not ready for him, and indeed he goes down.
Opening man advantage, 3 rounds in a row now for Mouz NXT, but there's always been a response. There's always been a frag up, and it's normally been Syrah.
Does get sprayed out to 77 in the end. Adjustment there from the CT side line. Keeping him at bay and pressing on to the ramp control. Froslev leads the charge.
Kristen and Nexius can establish this crossfire out here towards headshot. Reposition that third player in. Slen's going to try and peek around the smoke. There's a gap in it, actually.
Peeks ahead, shot missing out. Jensi with the kill, Froslev follows it up. Nexius drops that bomb in the open. 3-on-3, making it 2 as Sira can strike, but not for much longer as Jimpat forces out TK, lining up 2, but Unlay responds to a 1-on-1. It's him versus QQ. He has the info on the CT side advantage. Bomb in the open, should get picked up, should get planted.
How does he do it, though? Stick it the first time, tap it, no, just stick it down. QQ, we've seen him win clutches before.
Force the CT to come to you. Watch the headshot. This is the most important clutch we've seen so far in this map. Even this series, for that matter. Unlay presses on. QQ tries to make progress on the site. He's seen! And Unlay takes him down at 2K. Masonic have evened up against Mouz NXT and might just nip it in the bud. Now we stand neck and neck, and both sides are 2 away from the win. In Masonic's case, it's 2 away from the series win.
I've got to rip in here, Jay. I've got no other option. 3 rounds in a row, Mouz NXT have had 5v4s. 3 rounds, they've had opening man advantages, and all 3 of those rounds have gone the way of Masonic. Fundamentally, there is a collapse. There is no way that you can have successful rounds in a row go the other way when getting opening picks. That should not be happening. And for Masonic, they're working the advantages in the mid round. They're working the advantages in the late round. That's how they're winning them, not in the early.
Oh, Mouz.
And they can't even buy here. You force it, you're not going to get a good one.
Well, they have bought SMGs, they're buying utility.
But they got max round loss bonus to buy down to mainly 1,500 at max. I mean, Slen's gone slightly further, so that probably tells that Krizen's going to drop him the AWP in the next round.
What can they find here? Not much on Nexius's part. Froslev's got him. Straight through the smoke, the spam works wonders. The 5-7 of Krizen next up to fall. SMG is Slen next, flashed out, but Froslev is just on a tear now. Wants his own piece of the star power pie. 3K, won't survive against QQ. Tries to hold up against his own here. Unlay detected, goes down in the end for Sira in the side alley position. There alongside Jensi's crossfire to take the last 2 outs. And it is map and match point for Masonic. Mouz NXT have not moved an inch for the last 5 rounds in a row.
Masonic are looking great, aren't they? This streak has looked tasty. And you think about it across the board, 1 more to go. This could be the one that close it.
One last buy for Mouz NXT to take us to overtime. Get the 15th they've been longing for so long. Damage done to Nexius initially. Torsen. AK held 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's very early doors and they are playing so careful here.
So they're leaving Slend up there towards the top of the ramp position and actually rotating Krizen back over. QQ flashed off, spamming out towards that danger position. Hasn't seen Torsen on the walk up.
Been naded back by the blind HE. Got the absolute worst of it there for the T side. QQ is just doing all that he can and they're trying to press them, ensure they can't make their way forward. Molotov sent his general direction though, he's forced forward anyway. T-side players in, he's blind as a bat though. Torsen makes it look easy, as does Froslev onto Jimpat. 4-on-3, Masonic have the site. Mouz NXT about to concede this.
Krizen trying his best to spam through. Unlay on that late lurk, coming back up from the B stairs as the 1-for-1 trade.
Then now next up to task, Nexius inbound. Provide support with the M4, he might be required in this position though. They're down by a player, they're making noise. AWP gets closer and closer to death as Froslev takes him and Nexius can go no further. It's a 16-14 for Masonic, a 2-0 as they knock Mouz NXT out in the first round.
LAN experience versus non-LAN experience. It is Masonic to come out on top. My goodness, the core just keeps doing it, Jay. It doesn't matter what the roster is, whether you've got Notan, Buzz, Kier, Vesta, or maybe even a Jarko. When they come to LAN, LAN, they are a successful team.
Absolutely unreal. You cannot praise them anymore on this Masonic side because, again, it could be disappointing for Mouz and NXT. Take a look at what we saw in our overpass. What was the one thing we were doing? Praising Masonic for an absolutely excellent game played. Yes, it was a bit of a struggle there on Vertigo, but towards the end, you could see that excellence once again. They looked absolutely amazing. Mouz choked it at the last second, and it's going to be absolutely disappointing for those guys.
Yeah, it is, and it hurts because, again, you look at map 1 and they didn't really have a chance, did they? It wasn't competitive out on overpass. When you go into map 2, I think they started off really nicely. They got off to a good start. They had themselves a very good lead going into the second half. But again, when you've got 3 rounds in a row with man advantages that aren't being converted into round victories, well, you don't deserve to win the map. And I think for Masonic, they were able to punish the mid and late round so successfully.
Indeed they were. I mean, look, you can't take it away from them, man. They really performed an absolutely stellar performance, and they're happy about it. They know that they've pulled something off right here, right? Like, again, we walked into this saying that Mouz and NXT, yes, they might not have the LAN experience, but it's Mouz and NXT. Yeah. Look what they've done in the online environment. Look at the players that they've got on this side. They have so many great stars like Jim Pat, Slend, obviously that AWP. He's been the right fit for this side, but not in today's game.
Yeah, I think across the board for Mouz and NXT, I don't want to point fingers and be like, you know, that was the issue or they let them down. Fundamentally, as a team, they let themselves down. And that shows by having an 11-4 on your map pick, one of your best maps in the pool, and not close out.
Yeah.
There should not be any way that you get 3 rounds in the second half on Vertigo. And I think it just shows that if it was online, if we're in a different environment, I think we go to map 3.
I think so too, honestly. Like, again, the situation for Mouz and NXT is now about trying to find these new lands and go to more of them. Because, like, look, I think that if this, I think I agree with you. In this online environment, if this was an online environment, it would be a very different capacity there for Mouz and NXT to take this. But at the end of the day, it's not online. It's on LAN. And in fact, it's a victory for the Masonic side as they take it in a 2-0 fashion. And look, what more do you say to that? Well, we can't say. We've certainly been through the motions at this stage, but there is one man that certainly can say a few things about that. Congratulations, mate. What's a map from you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a bit exhausted right now, but...
we're exhausted, I'm not going to lie. That was a hell of a grind.
Yeah.
Going into Vertigo, right, we kind of had them pinned over on the Mouz and NXT side to be able to take that. And with that 11-4 half, it felt like they really were. What happened in the half switch that gave you that capacity to come back?
Oh, it's a very good question. I feel like we stick to our game plan, and that is probably the most important thing. We had to resolve from our anti-strat that we wanted to punish them on B and mid. But we couldn't just leave A open all the rounds. We had to mix some things up. And, you know, Slint and Nexus, they're pretty good at just going aggro on A and just shutting it down. So I feel like what we did was to just rush many players. And if we got the traits, we could just punish them on A.
I wanted to ask about Vertigo, because obviously in the first half, Nexus was obviously an issue, right? Going up there towards ramp, felt like he was creating a lot of space. I look in the second half, and I was quite critical to Mouz and NXT. They had a lot of opening man advantages. They had a lot of 5v4 situations, but it felt like in the mid-round, you were getting some lurks. Like, you had a round where you even got into CT. Anlay was getting sort of elevators control. Did it just feel as if that they were maybe giving you too much respect, even with an opening pick, that they were allowing you to take so much space?
I think it's a difficult question, actually. I feel like when we get into these non-advantages in the rounds, we play it slow, right? And we try to force some rotations because we know they're just going to hold and take the control that they have. So if we can force some rotations and try to get our lurks in good position, I think that was pretty much the reason why we got into winning the rounds eventually.
I mean, look, you guys took a bit of a dominating loss against Mouz and NXT about a month and a half ago. It was a 16-2, I think it was, on that Vertigo. You've managed to clap back over on Overpass. Does that give you any positive vibes or any good motions in your camp about returning the favor done unto you?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the last game against Mouz, it wasn't really a pleasant experience. I feel like they are a really good team on Vertigo, we have to say. And we also talked about in the pause after we won the first game that this is going to be a lot more difficult than Overpass. And we have to play our A game to win it. And, I'm just happy that after the first half that we could even manage to come back. So I think it's a very good step for us as a team. We had some struggles in a lot of OT games recently. So to close out this game, it just it feels like great.
I want to ask about some of the clutch situations as well, because we obviously saw you guys coming out on top on the majority of them in the series. It feels like the guys have just got the composure to just slow it down in the 1vx's. Have you noticed that online, or has it more been in this series? Geez, okay, we've really been able to show up in our clutches.
I think that we have a lot of good clutch players who really understand the game and can bring it back. But I feel like online we have been very stressed in our communication.
Okay.
And I feel like here on lane, people just feel comfortable and we are yelling and having fun and just round by round, you know. So that confidence in the round just helps us a lot. I feel like.
Well, you certainly proved a lot of confidence, I think, in that series, and now you're going to have to carry that confidence forward because there's going to be a Danish derby for you guys next up versus Astralis Talent. I mean, look, I know that obviously Mouz are a tough opponent, but we know that when it comes to national sort of competitions, they can get completely wild. So what are your thoughts on going into that matchup?
I would say 3 weeks ago, I would say Astralis Talent is a very scary team to play against because they had a really good run in that period. But now when Altix is joining the main team and Zipnix has come down to, I feel like they've been slumping a bit. They're not as great as they were before, so I feel like we have a good chance actually at beating them. And I'm just expecting us to do our very best, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a close game, but I think we will take it.
And I think we've seen the core before beat Astralis Talent on LAN, their last grand final placement. What's it been like to play with the core? Because one thing that we've obviously seen with these guys is they are successful on LAN. Obviously, the majority of the time is in the local scene, but Jensi, Anle, and Torsen, whenever these guys go to LAN, it seems like it's always very good.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great guys and they're really good at the game, I would say. And I also been learning a lot from them coming into the team. And it's been difficult for sure. There's been a lot of problems. But I feel like we are just extremely good at just fixing those problems along the way. So I think it's just been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been a pleasure to watch you guys. I had my doubts about Masonic, I'm not going to lie, coming into this tournament with all the roster changes that I've had for you guys. Does that unpredictability give you any sort of edge going into the future now?
From the roster changes?
Yeah, like, you know, because obviously when you make a roster change, you don't know what you're going to forget. So, like, is that going to be something that you can exploit against Astralis anyhow?
I feel like we have played a lot of games, maps, so they could anti-strat a lot, but I also feel like we put a lot of new things going into all these games, and I'm not sure they know exactly how we play, so I feel like they're not going to be fully prepared for us as a team and some of the changes we have done to our playstyle. So.
I even wanted to touch on the veto because I kind of looked at this one and thought, oh yeah, you're picking into Inferno, and then they perma-banned that. Did you expect that Mouz and NXT were going to ban that against you?
Yeah, the veto went just after the plane. So we expected that, you know, we would pick Opus, obviously.
Okay.
And we talked about Vertigo because we feel like we've been playing good in practice in Vertigo. And we knew they were a good team, so we would have a fair shot at taking them.
Yeah.
Nuke, I don't know about that. You know, it's not a map we have been playing that much. So if it was going to a third map, it would be a little bit difficult, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, well, both times now, Jay, in your head-to-heads against Mouz and NXT, Nuke's always been the decider. Haven't seen it yet, so we might have to wait till later on in the bracket.
Well, maybe. We'll have to see. For now, though, look, you guys have got a great victory, so congratulations, of course. Good luck going up against Astralis Talent, and hopefully we get to speak to you then as well.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Awesome. There you go. Well, that is, of course, Masonic beating out Mouz NXT. We'll take a look at the updated bracket and show you now how things stand right now in the MistGames Heroes of Lofoten. Masonic now up against Astralis Talent. Another derby. We had the Swedish derby on day 1. We'll have the Danish derby on day 4. And for that reason, I am particularly excited.
Yeah, mate, I always love a derby. And I think both teams probably wouldn't have been expecting this kind of outcome. Maybe you could say that, or I should say both teams in the semi-finals, right? The teams that have actually been invited here. Did you really think that it would be a 16-4 and 16-4 for the likes of Prospects? And did Astralis Talent really think that it would be a 2-0 without even dropping a map to Mouz and NXT? So there has been some surprises, and I think that probably opens up the horizon even further, where we kind of looked at Prospects being the heavy favourites. We looked at Astralis Talent before the event being the heavy favourites. what are the chances that maybe a favourite doesn't even make the final?
I mean, look, we've got some real good cases for that right about now, Dwayne, honestly. I mean, look, Masonic played absolutely incredibly.
Yeah, they did.
And I think we can only really praise them about that. So whether or not they can go forward and continue that, I guess we'll have to find out in the proceedings for a few days' time. For today, though, I believe you have a few rounds that you want to highlight, Dwayne.
Yeah, I had one actually in the second half on the comeback that Masonic had. It just felt as if I was so impressed with their mid-round. Now, right here, you can see both Jimpat and Nexius getting aggressive out towards Crane. It's a 3v3, and Sierra realizes, okay, get out of here instantly. Now, notice the way that Anlay is taking space out here in mid while they're going back to B. So he's trying to create that timing. Now, rather than coming up from Guardian and trying to take that fight down on B for the B split, he gets himself in an excellent position, right? I think we saw this live where, look at the time stalling. You've got the likes of Torsen and Sierra putting out the smoke towards the right-hand side of the generators. They're going to get the bomb down, and rather than Anlay fighting straight away, he slows it down completely. Sierra's able to look out towards the B stairs. Torsen can focus out there towards both the Guardian and that CT angle, and just let Anlay slow the round down entirely. As soon as util starts getting used, that's where he can peek out in the open. Torsen wins out that fight. Yes, maybe there's a little bit of an awkward exchange here between Anlay and QQ, but it shows Masonic's ability in these mid-round situations on how they set themselves up. And from that point onwards, winning out a post plant in a 3v3 from an uncomfortable position, they make it look easy.
And stuff like that, and of course, built back ultimately what was a successful map there from the Masonic side. And in the end, also a successful series from Masonic at the same time. So those small things, those things that they do, they really make a difference.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, you could see it right there. You're 8-13 down, you win a good round, you lose that round. You lose a 3v3 post plant, game's probably over. Or I should say map's probably over. We probably are going to nuke. So I think it shows the fine details that Masonic were able to exploit in the mid and late rounds that, in the end, was able to bring back a marvelous comeback.
And it was marvelous indeed, yes. Just incredible stuff in general from the Masonic side. Again, I can't praise it more than anything in that sort of sense, Dwayne. So they deserve the victory, I think, and they deserve the spot in the semi-finals coming up in a couple days' time. Tomorrow, though, we do have the other side of the bracket taking place with Ents Academy that will be taking on the 0-0 prospects in tomorrow's proceedings. That one, I think, Blake, is going to be a very fun match indeed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think I look at that overall. Prospects really impressive on the first day. For Ents Academy, they're a side that I think are looking to prove themselves on land, because the last couple of times there's been some exits in the finals. They want to try and just get that step further, and it's going to be a tough game. You're going up against a very good squad there from 0-0 prospects.
We'll see how well they can do in that particular matchup. For today, however, that is all we have for you in our single best of 3 action. We will roll on with the semi-finals. They begin off tomorrow here in the Heroes of Lofoten.